Welcome. I'm truly grateful to have you here. Please, make yourself comfortable and take your time. This story was crafted with care, dedication, and deep respect for your attention. I hope it brings you joy, reflection, and perhaps even a touch of nostalgia. Once again, thank you for sharing a moment of your day with me. The year is 1478. You find yourself in Florence, deep within the ornate shadowed heart of a powerful palazzo. Just as the early morning chill still clings to the stone, the very first thing that hits you is a scent. It's a heavy, cloying mix of dried rose petals, old, musky wine, and something undeniably metallic, like forgotten coins warming on damp stone. Beneath it all, a faint, sweetish tang you can't quite place. Something that tickles the back of your throat, making your stomach clench just a little. You open your eyes slowly. The air around you feels thick, almost oppressive, rich with the weight of unseen history. Gilded frames gleam dully in the slivers of sun that pierce the high arched windows, barely illuminating the tapestries so dark and deep they seem to absorb the weak morning light. These aren't just decorations, they feel like ancient eyes, watching. The heavy crimson velvet of the curtains hangs motionless, holding the lingering night in its folds. The sheets beneath you feel like silk, surprisingly cool and smooth against your skin, a stark contrast to the oppressive warmth of the room. You push yourself up, feeling the luxurious, yielding weight of the mattress beneath you, noticing the faint, rhythmic creak of springs long accustomed to grand inhabitants. As you swing your legs over the side of the bed, your bare feet meet the startling cold of polished marble. A shiver runs through you, but it's not just from the chill. There's an unnerving stillness in this vast room, a silence that feels deliberate, like the world outside has been carefully muted. Distant, muffled sounds from the waking city, a cart rumbling over cobblestones, a solitary dog barking, barely penetrate these thick walls. Closer, there's only the faint rustle of heavy fabric as you shift, perhaps a distant, muffled cough from somewhere deep within the palazzo's labyrinthine corridors. You feel a strange, almost tangible weight in the air, a sense of something hanging unspoken, a silent judgment that permeates every corner. This isn't just a room. It's a monument, a statement of immense wealth and an unspoken, absolute authority. The very air feels saturated with secrets. You glance around, a prickle on the back of your neck. Did a shadow just shift by the heavy, carved door, or was it just your imagination playing tricks in the dim light? You catch a glimpse of a figure standing almost perfectly still by a distant, arched doorway. It could be a guard, or perhaps a servant, a silent sentinel. Their gaze is fixed on something beyond you, unmoving, a statue of perpetual vigilance. You feel the intensity of their quiet tension, the constant readiness. You are being watched, even if not directly. This place demands an awareness that keeps you perpetually on edge. The sheer opulence of your surroundings, the richness of every detail, clashes violently with the subtle, sweet tang of rot you first perceived, creating an unsettling discord. This grand beauty, you realize, feels like a magnificent, fragile mask. If this story resonates with you, please like and subscribe. I'm curious, where in the world are you listening from, and what time is it there? Share in the comments. The first thing you feel as you step away from the luxurious yet strangely confining bed is the plush pile of a magnificent Persian rug beneath your bare feet. It's thick, impossibly soft, a woven landscape of deep crimson and gold threads that absorbs the sound of your steps, muffling them into absolute silence. This isn't just luxury, It's a deliberate suppression of noise, a quiet so profound it feels like a secret, as if the very air itself is holding its breath. You move further into the chamber, your fingers trailing across the cool, smooth surface of a polished walnut table that dominates the center of the room. It's not merely a piece of furniture. It's a testament. Its dark wood gleaming with centuries of careful preservation. Its intricate carvings telling a silent story of power and legacy. Upon this table, amidst stacks of parchment tied with elegant silk ribbons and heavy leather-bound ledgers, whose pages feel crisp and ancient under your touch, you spot it, a small, unassuming pile of gold coins. They lie there, catching the weak morning light, not sparkling aggressively, but radiating a deep, resonant glow, like captured fragments of the sun. You reach out, your fingers brushing against the cool, unyielding metal. This isn't the paltry copper of daily commerce. These are thick, substantial florins, each one a concentrated disk of pure wealth. When you pick one up, its unexpected weight anchors itself in your palm, a physical manifestation of power, of influence that has shaped empires. The intricate lily, the Florentine emblem stamped upon its surface, feels sharp and precise under your thumb, a tiny declaration of dominance that has shaped this city, perhaps this entire world. As you turn the coin over, admiring its flawless artistry and the stories it could tell, a subtle shift in the room's atmosphere makes you instinctively still. You lift your gaze, your eyes sweeping across the opulent space until they land on the deep shadows of an arched doorway across the room. A figure stands there, so motionless they might be part of the palazzo's ancient stone. They are dressed in a practical, dark tunic, devoid of any embellishment, a stark contrast to the extravagance surrounding you. Their posture is rigid, almost ceremonial, and their eyes, dark and piercing, are fixed with unnerving intensity, not on you, but on the space just past your shoulder, as if perpetually scanning for a threat only they can perceive. You notice it then, the slight, deliberate bulge beneath their tunic at the waist. It's a shape too defined, too metallic, too deliberate to be anything but a sheathed blade, a dagger. Its presence is a silent, chilling underscore to the shimmering gold in your hand, a constant, unspoken threat. This isn't a gentle presence, a friendly guard. This is an enforcer, a sentinel, a living extension of the power these coins represent. The air, which moments ago felt thick with history and luxury, now thrums with a different kind of energy, a contained tension, a silent promise of swift, decisive action should the order be given. You feel a sudden, acute awareness of your own vulnerability in this gilded cage, a stark understanding that the beauty around you is merely a veneer. This wealth isn't just accumulated, it is guarded, fiercely, brutally. And you, in this moment, are within the orbit of that raw, unyielding protection. The silent understanding that permeates this space is that such immense power, such concentrated gold, always casts a long, sharp shadow, and you are standing right within its reach. The first thing you taste is a sharp, metallic bitterness, like iron and dry earth mixed together, coating the inside of your mouth. You cough, a dry, dusty sound, wiping your grimy hand across your lips and realizing too late it's coated in the same dark, chalky residue. This isn't the perfumed air of a palazzo. This is the acrid, raw breath of a workshop. The smell of crushed minerals, strong turpentine, and old linseed oil hangs heavy, almost suffocating, mingling with the faint, sweet decay of wood shavings and damp plaster. You're hunched over a heavy wooden workbench, your back aching from hours spent bent in concentration. Your fingers stained with a rainbow of dried pigments, ochre, vermilion, deep ultramarine, are calloused and stiff. You pick up a mortar and pestle, the heavy stone cold against your palm, and resume the rhythmic, grinding motion that reduces chunks of raw earth and vibrant rock into fine, jewel-toned powder. Dust motes dance in the single shaft of sunlight slicing through the high, grimy window, illuminating the swirling particles that seem to settle on everything, including your lungs. Around you, the workshop is a chaotic symphony of creation and clutter. Unfinished canvases lean against walls, their eyes following you with unblinking stares. Brushes of all sizes lie scattered, stiff with dried paint, waiting for resurrection. The rough texture of the smock you wear scratches against your skin, a humble, practical garment far removed from the silks of yesterday. You hear the faint scrape of a chisel against stone from a corner, the rhythmic tap-tap-tap of a hammer, the soft sigh of breath from someone else intensely focused on their own task. It's a space of relentless physical labor, where beauty is forged from grit and strain. You watch your hands, the careful, almost surgical precision as you mix a tiny dollop of oil into the fresh pigment, coaxing it into a smooth, luminous paste. The transformation is almost magical, but the process itself is anything but elegant. It's dirty, demanding, and the lingering bitter taste of that powdered earth reminds you of the raw materials, the sheer physical effort embedded in every stroke of genius. A young apprentice, no older than you, kneels nearby, meticulously sharpening a quill, his brow furrowed with intense concentration. He glances up, his eyes meeting yours for a fleeting moment. A shared understanding of the demanding, endless nature of this craft. There's a quiet determination in his gaze, a reflection of your own. This isn't about grand pronouncements. It's about the silent, persistent struggle against raw matter, turning dust into dreams. The world outside, with its politics and its power games, feels miles away, locked behind the thick, paint-splattered walls. Here, the struggle is simpler, more elemental. The fight to capture light, to give form to vision, one painful, dusty, bitter-tasting stroke at a time. You press the charcoal to the coarse parchment, feeling the gritty, almost resistant drag across the fibers. A low sigh escapes you, barely audible above the low hum of your own concentrated thoughts. You're trying to capture something profound and elusive. The subtle curve of a calf muscle, the elegant line where a hip meets the torso, the almost sacred geometry of the human form. This is a classical pose, a figure caught in a moment of serene, almost eternal contemplation. But your hand hesitates. The charcoal stick, though light, feels strangely heavy, almost a burden, carrying the weight of centuries of unspoken rules. You scowl, then gently erase a line with the ball of your thumb, smudging the dark dust into the paper, blurring the ideal you just painstakingly sketched. Your gaze instinctively shifts from the developing drawing to a small, unadorned crucifix hanging on the far workshop wall, almost swallowed by the deeper shadows there. The stark, suffering figure of Christ, carved simply from dark wood, is a potent, unyielding reminder. This fervent pursuit of beauty, this emerging veneration of the human body you feel so compelled to explore, feels less like art and more like a precarious tightrope walk. You are chasing perfection, striving for a divine form that echoes the grandeur of the ancients, convinced you are simply revealing God's own boundless artistry in creation. But an insidious whisper, an echo from countless sermons and confessional booths, warns of hubris, of idolatry, of the flesh as a treacherous vessel of temptation and inevitable sin. You pick up the charcoal again, your fingers twitching with an impatient, almost feverish energy. You sketch a stronger, more confident line for the clavicle, then follow the sinuous, graceful flow of the neck. You can almost feel the vitality pulsing beneath the imagined skin, the breath held, the potential for both exquisite grace and profound corruption contained within every curve, every shadow. The workshop is quiet around you, save for the rhythmic, almost hypnotic scratching of your charcoal and the distant, sonorous chime of a bell from a nearby church. Each peal seems to weigh on you, a heavy, resonant sound that pulls at the threads of your spirit, a constant, echoing reminder of the spiritual scaffolding that still holds this world together, a powerful counterbalance to the burgeoning humanism that thrills your very artist's soul. You lean back on your stool, pushing it slightly away from the workbench, assessing your work with a critical eye. The figure on the page is rapidly taking shape, undeniably beautiful, radiating a quiet strength, almost breathing life onto the parchment. But in its perfection, you perceive a fragile, almost dangerous defiance. You can almost feel the stern, disapproving gaze of an unseen, zealous friar. The potential for your art to be profoundly misinterpreted, to be branded as a brazen, earthly celebration rather than a humble act of divine reverence. There's a nervous tremor in your hand as you refine the delicate shadow beneath an eye, trying desperately to imbue it with a depth that suggests not just physical beauty, but also a struggling soul, perhaps one wrestling fiercely with its own salvation, its own eternal fate. The pursuit of this idealized form, you realize with a jolt, is a dangerous, exhilarating dance. You are consciously pushing boundaries, driven by an insatiable curiosity about the visible world, a deep reverence for human potential, for what humanity can achieve. But the persistent shadow of eternal judgment, the chilling fear of having a damned soul for celebrating the transient, glorious body too much, is a constant cold breath on your neck. You feel the profound conflict deep within you, a vivid, almost painful juxtaposition of the thrill of creation mixed with an ancient, deeply ingrained fear. You feel the floor beneath your feet thrumming with a deep, resonant vibration. It's not the subtle quiver of an old building settling, but a persistent, almost aggressive pulse that works its way up your legs, making your teeth ache slightly. Then the sound hits you, a rhythmic, deafening clatter, a relentless mechanical symphony of wood groaning, metal screeching, and the sharp, decisive thud of a heavy platen slamming down. It's loud. So loud you instinctively raise a hand to your ear, but the sound seems to penetrate your skull, echoing in your very bones. This is a place of raw, unbridled force. The air itself feels dense, thick with the acrid, slightly sweet tang of fresh ink, like burnt oil and crushed berries, mingled with the earthy scent of damp paper and the faint, metallic aroma of hot lead. It's a powerful, almost intoxicating mix that sticks to the back of your throat. Your eyes struggle to adjust in the dim, dust-filled light of the workshop. Towering wooden frames rise around you, hulking, imposing machines that dominate the space. Each one is a marvel of gears, levers, and screws, all stained black with years of ink and effort. You step closer to one, compelled by a strange, almost magnetic curiosity. A thick, dark roller passes over a bed of carefully arranged metal types, coating them with a glistening, viscous layer of black. The air around it shimmers with exertion. A hunched figure, their face streaked with ink, works with an almost frantic precision, their movements economical and swift. Their hands are a blur as they slide a sheet of damp, off-white paper into place, adjusting it with a practiced flick of the wrist. Their brow is furrowed, a bead of sweat tracing a dark path through the grime. There's no idle chatter here, no song. Only the relentless rhythm of the press and the focused breathing of the workers. With a grunt, the figure pulls a massive lever. The entire machine lurches, groaning under the strain. You brace yourself against a nearby wooden beam as the heavy platen descends with an almighty clang, pressing the paper against the inked types. The sound is visceral, bone-jarring. Then, with a reverse motion, the lever is pushed back, the platen lifts, and the worker swiftly peels back the sheet. You lean in, your breath catching in your throat. On the paper, stark and crisp against the cream background, are lines of perfectly formed letters, a block of text, clear and uniform. It's not the familiar, often messy script of a scribe, with its individual quirks and flourishes. This is identical, replicable. You touch the wet ink cautiously, feeling its cool stickiness. Your finger comes away stained, a dark, indelible mark. The worker glances at you, a quick, intense look from eyes that seem to hold both exhaustion and a fierce, almost revolutionary pride. There's a silent challenge in that gaze, an understanding that something profoundly new is happening here, something that will change everything. This machine, you realize, isn't just making pages. It's forging a new world, one deafening clatter at a time, making knowledge tangible, accessible, and potentially dangerous. The sheer force required to create these fragile sheets feels like the very effort of a new era being born. Loud and unyielding, you hold the page in your hand, its edge rough and slightly uneven against your thumb, almost prickly. It's thinner than you expected, almost translucent in places, a stark contrast to the weighty, luminous vellum you're accustomed to seeing in the church's guarded libraries. The ink, still faintly damp, carries a sharp, metallic tang, like burnt oil and something chemical, entirely different from the earthy, rich aroma of a meticulously prepared, hand-copied manuscript. This isn't just a single piece of paper. It's a sheet torn from a rapidly growing stack, a testament to the furious, almost violent clatter of the printing press you just witnessed moments ago. Your eyes instinctively trace the lines of text. The letters are remarkably uniform, sharp and unyielding, each character a perfect, identical twin to its neighbors. There are no delicate, hand-drawn flourishes here, no vibrant, jewel-toned illuminations that once elevated sacred words to breathtaking art. This page is purely functional, starkly efficient, almost brutal in its simplicity. It contains only information, raw and unadorned, stripped of the costly beauty that once made knowledge the exclusive, precious domain of the wealthy, the powerful, and the pious. A shiver runs down your spine, not from the chill in the air, but from a sudden, profound realization that settles deep in your gut. This page, so humble in its appearance, holds an immense, disruptive power. It's a whisper that can now become a deafening roar, a closely guarded secret that can be shared not with dozens of scholars, but with hundreds, then thousands, then potentially millions. You imagine these identical pages fanning out across the continent, carried by opportunistic merchants, hidden in the satchels of traveling scholars, read by flickering candlelight in countless homes far from any monastery or fortified palazzo. The very thought feels exhilarating, a potent surge of possibility, yet it's deeply tinged with a profound, unsettling fear. You glance up, your gaze sweeping nervously across the bustling market square where you find yourself. The air is thick with the clamor of voices, the scent of baking bread and the bleating of livestock. People mill about, haggling over prices, their conversations a dull murmur, a cacophony of daily life. But among them you catch the eyes of a robed figure, a friar, his cowl drawn low, his face shadowed. His gaze, though briefly meeting yours, holds a familiar suspicion, a deep-seated wariness that mirrors the unease you now feel. He isn't looking at the humble page clutched in your hand, not directly, but rather at the general, almost imperceptible shift in the atmosphere, the underlying current of change that vibrates through the very stones of the city. He seems to sense the intangible hum of nascent revolution, the quiet tremor caused by such a simple, ink-stained sheet. You quickly fold the page, its crisp edges making a faint, almost illicit rustle, and tuck it deep into your tunic. Its presence against your chest feels like a secret burden, a dangerous seed, a potential catalyst for upheaval. This isn't merely the efficient reproduction of words. It's the radical democratization of thought itself, the violent shattering of old gatekeepers, the terrifying prospect of ideas escaping the stringent control of the powerful and spreading unchecked among the masses, the absolute authority of the church, the unchallenged rule of kings, the unyielding power of tradition itself, all suddenly feel less absolute, more vulnerable, more fragile than ever before. This unassuming, mass-produced page is a tangible threat, a heresy not in its content, perhaps, but in its very existence, in its audacious, almost arrogant potential to empower anyone who can read, to challenge everything that has long been accepted as divine, immutable truth. The first thing you feel is a sharp, almost violent explosion on your tongue. Not a sweet burst, not the mellow tang of an apple, but an immediate, searing heat that spreads like wildfire through your mouth, igniting every nerve ending. You gasp, a raw, involuntary sound, your eyes watering instantly, blurring the bustling market stalls around you into a dizzying kaleidoscope of color. It's an unfamiliar, aggressive warmth, unlike any spice you've ever encountered. Hotter than peppercorns, more intense than ginger, a living flame threatening to consume your senses. You cough, a choking, sputtery sound, frantically fanning your hand in front of your open mouth, desperate to dispel the inferno. Your throat tightens, and for a terrifying moment, you wonder if you've been poisoned. A cool, damp cloth pressed into your hand by a passing vendor is a godsend, and you press it against your lips, seeking any respite. The aroma clinging to your fingers now is earthy, strangely pungent yet alluring, a paradox of pain and curiosity. You glance down at the small, vibrant red fruit you just dared to bite into, its unassuming skin now seeming to mock your naivete. It looks so innocent, nestled among familiar European staples, plump grapes, sturdy cabbages, golden rounds of cheese. The market square itself is a cacophony of familiar sounds. The rhythmic haggling of merchants, the distant cries of street vendors, the clatter of wooden shoes on cobblestones. Yet, The intensity of this taste has momentarily silenced it all, isolating you in a bubble of pure sensation. You hear a low chuckle nearby. Turning, you see the merchant who offered you the sample. A man whose dark, sun-weathered skin and bright, knowing eyes suggest he's seen many a reaction like yours. He gestures with a hand to the pile of small, fiery fruits, then makes a sweeping motion across the imaginary ocean, a silent explanation of their distant origin. His slight smile suggests a shared, ancient secret, one now suddenly unveiled to your unsuspecting tongue. You take a tentative breath, trying to regain control. The heat still lingers, a persistent ghost, but now, beneath the initial shock, you start to perceive something else, a deep, complex flavor, almost fruity, distinctly vegetal, utterly unlike anything from the old familiar world of cloves and nutmeg. It's a taste that speaks of rich earth, of intense sun, of a world yet unknown to most, carried across vast, dangerous seas. The fruit itself feels firm and crisp between your remaining fingers, its small seeds rattling faintly within. This unassuming little marvel, you realize, is a culinary ambassador, a tiny, potent spark from a continent beyond the known maps. You look around again, seeing the familiar sights of the European market with new eyes. The ordinary everyday foods suddenly seem less vibrant, almost muted, in comparison to the audacious challenge of this new flavor. It feels like a boundary has been crossed, a door opened. This isn't just about a new ingredient. It's about a new kind of experience, a new sensation, hinting at an entire universe of unknown possibilities and unexpected realities. The world, you sense, is suddenly far larger, far more shocking, and undeniably more flavorful than you ever could have imagined. Its vastness now tangibly, deliciously, burning on your tongue. The year is 1502. You are in a bustling port city, the air thick with the smell of brine, foreign spices, and unwashed bodies. You reach out, your fingers closing around a small, intricately carved silver amulet displayed on a merchant's worn blanket. It's strikingly cold, almost painfully so, against your skin, a chill that seems to emanate from its very core, deeper than the sea air itself. The silver is darkened with age and travel, etched with swirling, unfamiliar patterns that speak of distant lands, patterns unlike any you've seen in European craft. It feels surprisingly heavy in your palm, a concentrated weight that belies its small size, as if it carries the very density of the earth from which its ore was mined, a silent testament to a world newly opened. You turn it over, feeling the rough texture of the ancient craftsmanship, the sharp edges of the strange, unidentifiable symbols digging faintly into your fingertips. A faint, almost imperceptible tremor runs through your hand, not from any physical strain, but from a burgeoning sense of unease that prickles the back of your neck. There's a faint, metallic tang to the silver, but also something else, something subtly acrid beneath it, like stale sweat and dried blood, an unsettling aroma that seems to cling to the object, a ghost of its journey across immense, churning oceans. Around you, the market is a riot of sound and movement. Merchants call out their wares, their voices hoarse, almost desperate. Sailors bellow orders, and the constant shuffling of hundreds of feet on the dusty ground creates a low, ceaseless drone that feels oppressive. But beneath this familiar cacophony, you discern a new, more frequent sound, a ragged cough, then another, quickly stifled but undeniably present, weaving through the noise like an insistent, unsettling melody. You notice a subtle tremor in the vendor's hand as he takes payment from another customer, a slight twitch around his eyes, a pallor to his skin that wasn't there when you arrived in the city. He avoids your gaze, his movements stiff, almost hesitant, as if every action costs him dearly, as if he carries a burden you cannot see. You bring the amulet closer, inspecting a tiny, almost imperceptible dark spot on its surface. Is it simply tarnish, the slow decay of time and exposure, or something more sinister, something left behind by an unknown hand, a foreign illness taking hold? The question hangs in the humid air. You feel a sudden, acute awareness of the press of bodies around you, the shared air, the inescapable proximity of strangers, the exotic appeal of the amulet, its undeniable beauty from a world recently discovered, now feels tainted, infused with a subtle, insidious dread that grips your gut. This isn't just a trinket. It's a connection, a conduit, a tiny, glittering thread linking two worlds. You imagine the hands that held it before, the distant lands it traveled through, the countless breaths that passed over its surface, both healthy and sick. The invisible now feels terrifyingly potent, a silent passenger hitching a ride on the very currents of trade and exploration that define this tumultuous age. This beautiful object, a prized trophy from the New World, suddenly feels like a Trojan horse, bringing not just wonders and riches, but also the profound unknown, the unseen, the utterly destructive. You clutch it tighter, then recoil slightly, a sudden cold fear gripping you, a chilling understanding that the greatest threats now arrive not with an army or a siege, but carried silently, invisibly, on the relentless tides of commerce, on the innocuous surface of something as simple and alluring as a piece of newly acquired silver. You instinctively wipe your hand on your tunic, a futile gesture against a threat you cannot see, cannot touch, but can now undeniably feel settling into the very marrow of your bones, changing the world one unsettling touch at a time. You kneel on the cold, unforgiving marble floor, the chill seeping through the thin fabric of your trousers straight into your bones. It's an ancient cold, an oppressive, damp embrace that seems to rise from the very foundations of this colossal cathedral. Above you, the vaulted ceilings soar, a dizzying expanse of intricate ribs and ancient stone, painted with scenes of saints and divine judgment. Your gaze tries to follow the lines, stretching upwards, but they seem to blur into a distant, hazy expanse, lost in the echoing gloom. The air itself is heavy with the scent of old incense, beeswax, and damp stone, a fragrance that for centuries has promised solace and unwavering truth. Yet, today, it feels different. It feels hollow, as the faint, distant chant of the choir echoes from the high altar. A perfect ethereal harmony. A discordant note strikes within you. It's a subtle shift, a quiet tremor, an unfamiliar coldness that has nothing to do with the marble beneath your knees. You watch the flickering flame of 1,000 candles at the distant altar, each a tiny beacon against the vast, impenetrable darkness of the nave. For generations, these flames represented certainty, prayers ascending, divine presence. But now you see them differently. They are merely fire, small and fragile, dancing on wicks, easily extinguished. The gold on the altarpiece, once a symbol of divine glory, now looks like mere metal, cold and heavy. reflecting light but offering no inherent warmth or comfort. You shift, your knee cracking softly in the profound silence that falls between the echoes of the chant. Around you, other supplicants are bent in prayer, their forms indistinct in the deepening shadows of the vast nave. One old woman, her face etched with devotion, clutches a rosary, her lips moving in silent, fervent supplication. Her faith seems absolute, an unshakable fortress against the uncertainties of the world. You find yourself watching her, a strange mixture of envy and detachment washing over you. Do they feel this chill, this pervasive existential cold that has settled in your spirit? Or are you alone in this unsettling, new perception? The sheer scale of this sacred space, built to inspire awe and unquestioning devotion, feels oppressive now. Each soaring arch, each stained glass window depicting miracles and martyrdoms, once reinforced an unyielding cosmology, a singular divine truth. Now, they seem to stand as monuments to a belief system that, for the first time, feels porous, vulnerable to unseen cracks. The grandeur, the undeniable artistry, the sheer human effort poured into raising these colossal stones, it all remains immense and awe-inspiring. But the divine certainty, the unquestioning comfort it once offered, seems to have quietly, chillingly, begun to recede, leaving only a vast, echoing void. It's a silence not of peace, but of questions, a pervasive cold breath of doubt that settles deep into the marrow of your faith, making the very air within the consecrated walls feel thin, precarious, almost suffocating. You rise, your legs stiff, the chill from the marble floor now deeply embedded, not just in your bones but in your very soul. The roar hits you first, a primal, hungry sound that vibrates in your chest, rattling your teeth. It's not the murmur of a crowd, but a unified guttural bellow, a wave of fervent human sound that rises and falls with the frantic crackle of fire. Then comes the heat, an intense, dry blast that singes the hair on your arms and cheeks, forcing you to shield your face with a raised hand. You taste ash and bitter smoke on your tongue, and the air stings your eyes, making them water uncontrollably. You are pushed and jostled by the surging crowd in the Piazza della Signoria, a dizzying sea of bodies, their faces flushed, some with zealous fury, others with a strange, almost terrified awe. Before you, towering impossibly high in the center of the square, is the Inferno, the bonfire of the vanities. Flames lick greedily at a colossal pyre, a grotesque monument built of everything deemed sinful. You see violins twist into black char, their strings snapping like tortured cries. Gilded mirrors shatter into a million glittering fragments under the intense heat. Books, ornate, leather-bound volumes with intricate etchings, curl and writhe as their pages turn to crisp, black ash, the knowledge they held consumed in a blaze of righteous indignation. Paintings, their vibrant colors still visible moments before, bubble and peel, the faces of beautiful women and mythological heroes reduced to grotesque, melting smears. The air is thick, choked with the smell of burning wood, scorched canvas, melted wax, and the pungent aroma of human sweat and raw emotion. You stumble as someone behind you surges forward, drawn by the terrifying allure of the destruction. Your eyes dart across the frenzied faces around you. Some are contorted in expressions of ecstatic release, their eyes shining with a frightening, almost triumphant light. They throw their own worldly possessions, delicate trinkets, fashionable clothing, even chessboards, into the consuming maw of the fire, as if shedding a skin, purging themselves of sin in a communal act of purification. Their shouts are a unified chant, "Viva Cristo! Viva Cristo!" But then you see other faces too. Closer to the periphery of the crowd, there are those whose expressions are grim, almost mournful. Their eyes hold a quiet horror, a deep-seated despair as they watch the destruction of beauty, of art, of thought. You catch the gaze of a young man, his face pale and drawn, his hands clenched so tightly his knuckles are white. His eyes meet yours for a fleeting moment, a silent plea, a shared understanding of profound loss amidst the clamor of fanaticism. He looks away quickly, as if afraid to be seen holding such a dangerous thought, to be discovered possessing a different kind of anguish in this public display of spiritual cleansing. The flames roar higher, sending sparks dancing like malevolent stars against the darkening Florentine sky. The heat is unbearable, but the sheer force of the collective will, the raw, unbridled power of a city in the grip of a zealous preacher, holds you captive. You feel a profound, chilling sense of reversal. All the beauty, the pursuit of human potential, the burgeoning knowledge you've witnessed in this city, is now being systematically, deliberately undone, burned away in an agonizing public spectacle. This fire isn't just consuming objects. It's consuming an era, an entire way of seeing the world. And you, standing in its searing heat, feel its terrifying transformative power, an existential crisis burning brighter than any actual flame. You feel the metallic tang sharp and sudden on your tongue, a grim, coppery taste that floods your mouth, mingling with the dried dust clinging to your throat. It's the flavor of a wound not yet healed, a close call, a reminder of how easily life can spill. You swallow hard, but the taste lingers, a constant companion in this grimy makeshift encampment. The air is thick, with the scent of stale cook fires, unwashed bodies, and the distant, sickening sweet smell of unburied things, carried on the chill evening breeze. You clench your jaw, your gaze fixed on the calloused hand that extends towards you. It holds not a weapon, but a small, heavy leather pouch, its seams worn smooth with countless transactions. The man offering it, your captain, is a brute of a figure, his face scarred like old timber, his eyes like chipped flint. He says nothing, merely raises an eyebrow, a silent question about your readiness, your continued usefulness. His movements are economical, devoid of pleasantries. You take the pouch. The worn leather is cool and surprisingly soft against your palm, a deceptive invitation. But the weight inside is undeniable, a solid clink of metal against metal that resonates through your hand and up your arm. You don't count it immediately. That would be uncouth, a sign of distrust or greed. Instead, you merely feel its heft, its promise. This isn't grand, glittering gold like a Medici florin. These are blunt, unpolished silver and copper, hard-earned and smelling faintly of the earth from which they were dug, and perhaps of the blood they purchased. You glance around the camp. Huddled figures sit by dying embers, sharpening blades, mending torn tunics, or simply staring into the middle distance with hollow eyes. The silence among them is profound, broken only by the rasp of steel on whetstone, the low groan of a man shifting in his sleep, the distant, mournful cry of an owl. It's a silence born not of peace, but of exhaustion, and perpetual vigilance. Every shadow seems to hold a threat. Every gust of wind carries the ghost of an enemy's approach. You feel the rough wool of your tunic against your skin, the comforting, familiar weight of the sword hilt pressing against your hip, a constant, chilling reminder of your trade. This pouch of coin, so tangible in your hand, feels like a precarious anchor, a temporary reprieve in a life lived perpetually on the edge of the precipice. It buys bread, a measure of ale, perhaps a night of dubious comfort. But more than that, it buys another day, another breath. It's the immediate, brutal currency of survival. You hear the soft, almost imperceptible scrape of your captain's boots as he turns and walks away, leaving you with the heavy pouch and the heavier understanding that this momentary reward is merely a down payment on a debt that can only be settled with your own blood, your own life. The metallic taste in your mouth persists, an intimate visceral connection between the cold reality of your payment and the ever-present shadow of your own mortality. It's the bitter flavor of a life for hire, a stark, unsentimental truth. You stumble over something unseen in the murky light, your boot sinking into soft, churned earth. The air tastes like ash and sulfur, a bitter metallic grit coating your tongue and scraping the back of your throat with every shallow breath. Your ears ring with a dull, persistent thrum, a ghostly echo of the cannonades that ripped through the morning. The ground beneath you feels impossibly uneven, littered with what you can only assume are the remnants of battle, though in this fading twilight, details blur into indistinguishable shadows. A cold, damp breeze whips across the field, carrying with it the sickeningly sweet scent of spilled blood and ruptured earth. You push a weary hand through your matted hair, feeling the grit and sweat, and the rough wool of your tunic sticks uncomfortably to your skin. Every muscle in your body aches, a dull, insistent protest against hours of relentless exertion. You lean heavily on the pike you carry, its long shaft feeling like a leaden weight, its tip still gleaming faintly with something dark and sticky. Around you the battlefield stretches, a desolate expanse punctuated by scattered groaning forms, and the dark upturned shapes of broken wagons. The once vibrant green fields are now a brutal canvas of black char and crimson stains. You see figures moving slowly like wraiths, their movements sluggish, mechanical. These are your comrades, or what remains of them. Their faces are uniformly grim, caked with mud and smoke, their eyes hollow. There's no triumphant shouts, no rallying cries. Just a profound, pervasive weariness that seems to cling to every man, every shadow. You catch the gaze of a man nearby, his armor dinted, his helmet askew. His eyes meet yours, not with camaraderie or shared victory, but with a vacant, almost animalistic stare. There's no light of divine purpose in his gaze, no fire of holy zeal, just the stark, brutal exhaustion of a job done, a contract fulfilled. He merely nods, a curt, almost imperceptible dip of his head, then turns to rummage through a fallen foe's cloak, his movements practiced, dispassionate. You see no cross clutched in dying hands, no fervent prayers on expiring lips. The spoils are meager, the sacrifice immense. This isn't a holy crusade. This isn't a glorious defense of faith or fatherland. This is simply brutal labor, bought and paid for. The pervasive smell of gunpowder, the iron taste of battle, the aching limbs. It's all for coin, for a distant prince's ambition, for borders drawn and redrawn on maps you'll never see. You scan the horizon, the dying light painting the ravaged landscape in shades of bruised purple and angry orange. There's no glory here, only the cold, hard calculus of survival. And in the unsettling quiet that follows the storm, you realize the ground beneath your feet, scorched and desecrated, holds no sacred meaning, only the anonymous blood of men who died for reasons they barely understood. Pawns in a new kind of war, a profoundly human and profoundly cynical enterprise. The weight of your pike feels heavier still, not just with metal, but with the stark, unromantic truth of it all. You reach out, your bare fingers pressing firmly onto the cadaver's exposed chest. It's a shocking, profound cold, not merely chill, but an icy, unresponsive clamminess that seems to steal the warmth directly from your bones. The skin is surprisingly taut, almost leathery, utterly devoid of the yielding give of living flesh. A shiver, involuntary and deep, runs through you, a cold more visceral than anything the winter air could offer. The air in the dissecting room is thick and heavy, a suffocating blend of stale incense, acrid vinegar used for preservation, and something else. An unmistakable, metallic sweetness that hints at the decay held at bay only by the bitter cold. It clings to your nostrils, settling at the back of your throat, a taste of profound finality. Even with the flickering oil lamps, the room feels perpetually dim, shadows dancing in the high corners, playing tricks on your peripheral vision. You grip the scalpel, its polished steel surprisingly warm against your palm, a stark contrast to the coldness of the inert form before you. The blade gleams, sharp and unforgiving, a tool poised to uncover secrets long hidden by doctrine and superstition. Your gaze sweeps across the silent, cloaked figures clustered around the dissection table. Students mostly, their faces a pale mosaic of fear, fascination, and profound curiosity in the uncertain lamplight. Their hushed breathing is the only sound, a collective intake and release that seems to amplify the unnerving silence of the room itself. You can almost feel the tremor of their anticipation, their unease, their shared complicity in this transgressive act. You trace the planned incision line, feeling the blunt edge of the blade against the skin, imagining the layers beneath. This isn't just a body, it's a landscape, a hidden mechanism waiting to be mapped, understood. The sheer audacity of it, peeling back the veil of flesh, once considered an affront to God, now feels like an imperative, a sacred duty to unlock the intricate design of creation. Yet, the old fears, the whispered condemnations of tampering with the divine, still cling to the air like the lingering scent of decay. The cadaver lies utterly still, an anonymous form, its eyes closed, its past life irrelevant to this moment of stark revelation. The profound stillness is almost unsettling, a silent challenge to the vibrant quest for knowledge that now pulsates through your own veins. You notice the delicate, almost translucent quality of the ear, the precise curve of a knuckle, details so often overlooked in life, now illuminated with a fierce, almost desperate clarity by death. This intense focus, this intimate examination, feels like a sacred act of defiance, a quiet rebellion against centuries of ignorance. A small sigh escapes one of the students, barely audible, a testament to the palpable tension that fills the room. You meet the gaze of another, his eyes wide, mirroring your own complex mix of reverence and a thrilling, illicit excitement. This cold, silent form is not merely a corpse. It's a gateway, a forbidden text written in muscle and bone, promising an understanding that could reshape not just medicine, but humanity's very perception of itself. A potent, chilling force of change that leaves you profoundly altered, one meticulous, defiant cut at a time. The icy touch lingers on your fingers, a constant reminder of the profound, unsettling truths you are about to unearth. You guide the scalpel with a careful, almost reverent precision, feeling the delicate, almost imperceptible resistance of the skin giving way, followed by a soft, yielding sigh as the blade slices through the underlying muscle. It's a profound, intimate touch, entirely different from the cool, clammy surface you first encountered. The air, thick with the sharp tang of vinegar and the metallic sweetness of blood, seems to intensify around you, pressing in as you begin to unveil the body's hidden landscape. Beneath the superficial layers, an astonishing, intricate tapestry reveals itself. You trace the glistening white tendons, pulling taut as you manipulate a limb, feeling their surprising strength and resilience. The muscles, once a smooth, idealized form, are now exposed in their raw, fibrous beauty. A complex geometry of crimson and deep ochre, each strand playing a vital role in movement. This isn't the perfect, flawless body depicted in ancient sculptures, but a living, breathing mechanism, albeit one now stilled, its secrets laid bare. You pause, your breath held, looking at the exposed organ before you, a lung, perhaps, or a portion of the gut, its texture unexpectedly soft, almost velvety, yet profoundly alien in its stillness. This visceral reality is a stark contrast to the vague, almost mystical diagrams found in old texts. You lift your gaze to the small sketchbook clutched in your free hand, its pages stained with charcoal dust and faint smudges of blood. Your other hand, still holding the scalpel, trembles slightly as you quickly sketch the precise arrangement of a nerve cluster, the delicate branching of a vessel. It's a frantic, almost desperate act, trying to capture this newfound truth before it fades, before the flesh yields to deeper decay. Around you, the hushed breathing of the students feels heavier, more laden with awe and perhaps a touch of revulsion. You catch the eye of the professor, an older man whose brow is furrowed in intense concentration, his gaze never leaving your hands, his expression a mix of grave contemplation and fierce intellectual excitement. There's a silent, almost palpable understanding passing between you both. This is more than mere dissection. This is an act of profound recreation, a painstaking redrawing of the human form, not as God's perfect, unquestionable image, but as a complex, tangible machine, elegantly designed, yet profoundly physical. The intricate beauty of the internal workings, revealed layer by painstaking layer, offers an almost intoxicating sense of discovery. Yet, it's also deeply unsettling. Each cut, each revelation of bone and sinew, feels like a deliberate unmaking of the sacred, a dismantling of centuries of belief that veiled the body in mystery. You gently peel back another layer, exposing the delicate tracery of veins, imagining the blood that once pulsed through them. The physical reality of existence, so raw and exposed, feels more immediate, more compelling, and in some ways, more terrifying than any abstract divine plan. This isn't just about understanding the body. It's about fundamentally altering humanity's understanding of its place in the universe, one meticulously drawn, deeply transgressive sketch at a time, redefining what it truly means to be human, from the inside out. You feel the dull, persistent ache in the pit of your stomach, a gnawing, acidic burn that has become a constant companion. It's not hunger, but a corrosive tension, a relentless internal pressure that mirrors the relentless pressure of the ledgers before you. You press a hand to your abdomen, trying to massage away the pain, but it only momentarily subsides, a phantom limb returning with insistent cruelty. The taste in your mouth is metallic, like old copper and bitter bile, a taste of perpetual worry. The sound that fills the small, windowless office is the rhythmic, almost hypnotic click-clack of an abacus. Each slide of a bead, each crisp thud as it settles into place, is a small, precise declaration of profit or loss, a meticulous accounting of the invisible currents of wealth flowing through the city. Your fingers, calloused at the tips, move with practiced, weary speed across the wooden frame, pushing beads back and forth, calculating interest, tracking loans, tallying endless columns of numbers. The wood of the abacus is smooth and worn beneath your touch, warm with the friction of countless calculations, its surface gleaming faintly in the weak lamplight. The air in the room is stale, thick, with the scent of aged parchment, dry ink, and the faintest hint of something faintly metallic, perhaps the ghost of the coins that once exchanged hands across this very desk. Stacks of bound ledgers rise around you like stone walls, their heavy leather covers, and thick, brittle pages holding the cold, hard truths of fortunes made and lost. Your quill scratches softly across a new page, making a thin, almost apologetic sound as you record another transaction, another promise, another risk. You pause, rubbing your temples, feeling the dull throb of a headache beginning to form behind your eyes. Your gaze drifts from the numbers to the small, ornate crucifix hanging on the wall, its ivory figure of Christ a stark contrast to the relentless world of figures and earthly gains. You remember the sermons, the warnings against usury, the narrow path to salvation. But here, in this quiet, calculating room, those grand pronouncements feel distant, almost irrelevant. The real religion here is interest, the true sacrament. Capital. A low cough from the corner startles you. Your junior clerk, a young man with a perpetually anxious expression, hunches over his own column of numbers, his brow furrowed, his movements equally precise and constrained. He glances up, his eyes meeting yours briefly, a silent acknowledgment of the shared burden, the ceaseless demand of their trade. There's no camaraderie, no light-hearted jesting. Only the grim, dedicated focus on the invisible threads of commerce that hold their world together. You return to the abacus, the beads cold beneath your fingers. The clicking resumes, a relentless, mechanical pulse that seems to dictate the very rhythm of your life. Each movement a desperate attempt to maintain balance, to keep the fragile edifice of wealth from crumbling. The gnawing pain in your stomach sharpens, a constant reminder of the high stakes, the moral compromises, the unrelenting pressure of a life defined by numbers. This isn't just work, it's a profound, existential gamble, a ceaseless pursuit of material gain that feels both necessary and profoundly isolating, leaving you perpetually unfulfilled, a silent crisis gnawing at your very core, one click, one calculation, one throbbing ache at a time. You feel the cold sweat bead on your brow, trickling slowly down your temple, despite the stale, confined air of the office. The gnawing ache in your stomach, a constant companion, now feels sharper, twisted into a knot of cold dread. Your fingers, usually so steady, tremble almost imperceptibly as you dip the fine quill into the inkwell. It's not the familiar black of daily transactions, but a stark, unsettling crimson that gleams wetly in the dim lamplight, a color that seems to pulse with an almost living warmth, completely at odds with the chill creeping up your spine. You bring the quill to the heavy ledger, its vellum pages thick and resistant, like the hides of condemned beasts. The page is open to a new entry, a column dedicated to the interest accrued on a recent, particularly advantageous loan. As the red ink flows from the quill, laying down precise, damning figures, you feel an icy grip on your heart. Each carefully formed numeral, each calculated increment of profit, feels less like a mark of earthly gain and more like a brand, a permanent stain on an unseen spiritual ledger. This isn't just accounting. It's an inscription, a damning record being etched not just on paper, but on your very soul. The only sounds are the faint, rhythmic scratch of your quill, the soft rustle of aged parchment, and the insistent, almost predatory thud of your own heartbeat against your ribs. The rich, earthy smell of the ink, usually comforting, now seems tinged with something metallic and acrid, like smoke and regret. You glance up, your eyes drawn to the small, intricately carved wooden figure of St. Lawrence, martyred on a gridiron, hanging opposite your desk. His painted eyes seem to gaze directly at you, not with compassion, but with a silent, searing accusation, a stark reminder of the infernal flames that await those who violate God's strictures against usury. The warmth of the lamp on your face suddenly feels less like light and more like the scorching breath of an unseen fire. You try to focus on the numbers, on the undeniable logic of profit, of growth, of providing the vital capital that keeps the city's commerce alive. But the figures blur, transforming in your mind's eye into mocking specters, dancing on the edge of a consuming abyss. You envision another ledger, not this one, but one written in ethereal fire, where every copper piece of interest taken is tallied in indelible red, damning you to an eternity of torment. The very thought sends a profound tremor through your hands, threatening to spoil the meticulous entry. The young clerk in the corner coughs, a dry, nervous sound that snaps you back to the stark reality of the office. He doesn't look up, but you feel his unspoken tension, perhaps a shared apprehension, or merely the pressure of the work. You force yourself to breathe, a shallow, uneven intake of the heavy air. The gold coins that will eventually be delivered from this transaction, once so appealing, now feel like scalding coals in your imagined palm. The pursuit of this earthly wealth, this relentless click of the abacus, this meticulous recording of every increment of profit, suddenly feels like a profound, terrifying gamble, a direct negotiation with damnation. The red ink on the page is not merely a record of your success, it is a chilling testament, a grim tally, a silent, terrifying premonition of the indelible entries in hell's own merciless ledger, each mark of profit a step further into the abyss, leaving you cold, exposed, and utterly terrified. This isn't just a business, it's a constant, agonizing crisis of the soul. You catch a whiff of it first, a heavy, cloying perfume, a blend of jasmine and musk, thick enough to almost taste. It's not a subtle fragrance. It's a declaration, a carefully constructed aura meant to precede you, to linger long after you've left a room. You inhale, and it fills your lungs, pushing away the faint, warm scent of your own skin, replacing it with an artificial bloom. Your maid's fingers, deft and practiced, work quickly at the back of your gown. You feel the cool silk slide against your bare shoulders. Then the sudden, sharp pull as the laces are tightened, cinching your waist to an almost unbearable degree. It's a familiar discomfort, a ritualistic constricting that reshapes your body into the desired silhouette, a living sculpture of fashion. You stand before a large, ornate looking-glass, its gilded frame gleaming dully in the soft lamplight. Your reflection stares back, a stranger adorned. Your hand reaches up instinctively to the pearl necklace resting against your collarbone. It's a magnificent piece, a cascade of lustrous white orbs, each one cool and smooth to the touch. But as the maid fastens the clasp, you feel a faint, persistent itch begin beneath the lowest strand, a subtle irritation against your skin. It's a minor thing, easily ignored, but it's there, a constant whisper of discomfort beneath the gleaming facade of wealth. Your gaze travels over the rest of the ensemble. The heavy brocade of the gown, embroidered with silver thread that glints in the light, the delicate lace ruff that frames your face, stiff and slightly scratchy. Your maid adjusts a stray curl of the elaborately styled wig, its artificial hair surprisingly heavy, pulling at your scalp. A dusting of face powder, rose-tinted, is applied with a soft puff, settling into every pore, creating a smooth, unblemished mask that erases the faint lines of fatigue around your eyes. You watch your lips in the mirror, drawing them into a carefully practiced smile. It's a smile that promises allure, wit, and effortless charm, a performance refined over countless evenings. But behind the painted cheer, you feel the persistent ache from the tight lacing, the subtle itch from the pearls, the heavy weight of the elaborate wig. The room around you is lavish, filled with the hushed rustle of expensive fabrics and the muted clink of delicate bottles. Another courtesan, equally adorned, passes by the open doorway, her eyes meeting yours in the mirror. A quick, knowing glance, a shared acknowledgement of the intricate, demanding art of illusion you both master. The scent of perfume, once a promise, now feels like a cage, a beautiful but suffocating enclosure. You smooth down the silk, the fabric cool and inviting against your hands, yet its very perfection feels like a barrier. This opulent attire, these dazzling jewels, this meticulously crafted image, they are not merely clothes. They are a uniform, a protection, a deliberate separation from a world that judges and consumes. And beneath the shimmering surface, the slight persistent itch of the pearls is a constant, quiet reminder that even the most exquisite beauty can carry its own uncomfortable truth, its own unspoken cost, a secret irritation that no amount of perfume or powder can entirely conceal. It's the subtle truth that the most gilded life often comes with the sharpest edges. The air around you is a rich tapestry of scents, the heavy, sweet perfume from your own neck, mingling with the earthy aroma of expensive pipe tobacco, the sharp tang of mulled wine, and a faint underlying scent of old books and candle wax. It's the complex aroma of a scholar's den, warmed by a roaring fire, but overlaid with something more opulent, more designed. You feel the plush, yielding velvet of the cushion beneath you, the fine weave of your silk sleeve brushing against the rough, reassuring texture of a heavy, leather-bound volume you hold casually in your left hand. Your gaze sweeps across the crowded salon. Figures recline on brocaded settees, their faces illuminated by the flickering hearth and the soft glow of sconces. There are merchants, their hands still subconsciously smoothing imaginary coin. There are artists, their eyes alight with a restless creative fire, perpetually observing. And there are scholars, their faces etched with the perpetual concentration of minds engaged in the pursuit of ancient wisdom. They are all here, drawn by the promise of patronage, of connection, and perhaps by the unique allure you project. You are listening, truly listening, to a man who speaks passionately of Plato's Republic, his voice resonating with conviction. You nod, a subtle, practiced gesture, allowing your eyes to meet his for a fleeting moment, a silent signal of understanding, of intelligent engagement. You feel the subtle shift in his posture, the slight flush that rises to his cheeks as he perceives your rapt attention. This isn't just a physical exchange. It's a mental dance, a delicate balancing act. You respond with a soft, perfectly timed question, one that demonstrates not just comprehension, but a keen, insightful mind. The words flow from your lips, carefully chosen, perfectly articulated, a melody of erudition and charm. You hear the almost imperceptible stir from nearby conversations as others turn their heads, drawn by the elegant turn of your phrase. You feel the weight of their collective attention, a powerful, almost tangible pressure. It's a validation, a confirmation that you are more than just a beautiful face in a beautiful gown. Your intellect, your sharp wit, your knowledge of ancient poetry and philosophy, they are all on display, just as carefully presented as the pearls around your neck. You catch the eye of a rival, a woman whose beauty rivals your own, her lips curved into a tight, almost imperceptible smile, an acknowledgement of your current triumph in this intellectual arena. But beneath the sparkling conversation, the effortless grace, the intricate dance of intellect and allure, you feel a peculiar sense of detachment. Each carefully crafted phrase, each astute observation, feels like a commodity, a valuable offering in this market of minds and flesh. You are selling not just your company but your thoughts, your cultivated knowledge, your very spirit. The applause, the admiring glances, the eager attention, they are currency, a fragile reward for a performance that demands every fiber of your being. This is a profound, almost dizzying paradox. To be truly seen, truly heard, truly valued for your mind, yet to know that this recognition is inextricably linked to your perceived physical desirability, to the unspoken transactional nature of your existence. This dazzling, vibrant life, you realize, is a constant, exhilarating tightrope walk between genuine connection and calculated exchange, a beautiful, gilded cage where your greatest strength, your very intellect, also becomes another item on the ledger of your public self, perpetually for sale. A sudden, choking cloud of acrid, metallic fumes hits you, making your eyes water and your throat constrict. It's a bitter chemical taste, like burnt copper and sour milk, coating your tongue and clinging to the back of your throat. You instinctively cough, a harsh, rattling sound that feels raw in your chest, trying to clear your lungs of the invisible, pungent assault. The air in the cramped, windowless laboratory is thick and heavy, a perpetual haze of vaporized liquids and powdered minerals, perpetually smelling of failure. You lean closer to the retort, its glass still warm, almost humming with residual heat. Inside, instead of the hoped-for glimmer of gold, or the ethereal shimmer of a perfected elixir, there's only a dark, viscous sludge, the color of old rust and forgotten dreams. It adheres stubbornly to the curved glass, a testament to yet another fruitless attempt. Another promise broken by the stubborn reality of matter. Your fingers, stained with various pigments and char from countless minor explosions, feel the rough texture of the workbench beneath them, its surface scarred by acid burns and embedded with fragments of shattered alchemical glass. Around you, the laboratory is a chaotic symphony of failed ambition. Dusty alembics sit askew, their coils long cold. Mortars hold remnants of strange, colorful powders, their labels smudged and unreadable. The low guttural bubbling of a less active concoction in a distant corner provides the only other sound, a constant, mocking reminder of the relentless, unyielding pursuit. The flickering flame of a single oil lamp casts dancing shadows on the walls, making the shelves filled with dried herbs, bizarre animal parts, and stoppered vials seem to writhe with their own frustrated energy. You pick up a pair of iron tongs, the metal cold and heavy in your hand, and carefully extract a small, still warm crucible from the charcoal brazier. Its contents, once a hopeful mixture of lead and mercury, have solidified into a dull, leaden lump, utterly devoid of any precious gleam. It's dense, unremarkable, stubborn. You turn it over in your palm, feeling its disappointing weight, the sheer, brute refusal of the world to bend to your profound, almost desperate will. The promise of transmutation, of turning the base into the noble, the mundane into the divine, feels both tantalizingly close and impossibly distant. Across the room, your apprentice, a thin, pale boy with dark smudges under his eyes, glances up from a meticulous inscription in an ancient text. His eyes, though weary, hold a flicker of shared disappointment as he sees the results in your hand. He doesn't speak, merely offers a slight, almost imperceptible shake of his head, a silent acknowledgement of the universal truth in this clandestine pursuit. The universe does not yield its deepest secrets easily. He returns to his scroll, his quill scratching softly, as if seeking answers in old words that the crucible refuses to give. The metallic tang in your mouth intensifies, a constant, bitter flavor of ambition colliding with reality, of boundless human yearning thwarted by the intractable nature of the physical world. This isn't just a failed experiment. It's a moment of profound, unsettling doubt, a question whispered in the acrid air about the very foundations of knowledge and the limits of human control. The grand visions of philosophers, of bending nature to your will, are here reduced to a foul-smelling solid residue, a stark, visceral reminder of a profound existential crisis where even the most fervent belief in progress can be choked by the simple, stubborn refusal of lead to become gold. A sudden, sickening sweet smell assaults you, thick and cloying, cutting through the usual pungent fumes of sulfur and stale alcohol that fill your hidden laboratory. It's the undeniable scent of decay, of flesh turning. But here, in the heart of the city, it's not just one body. It's a pervasive, terrifying blanket that has draped itself over every street, every alley, creeping even into the supposedly sealed confines of your workshop. You gag, a dry, bitter taste rising in your throat, a taste of fear and desperate haste. You lean heavily over the alembic, your hand trembling as you adjust the tiny flame beneath the bubbling concoction. The glass is warm, almost feverish against your palm. Inside, a milky mercurial liquid churns, promising the ultimate transformation, the philosopher's stone, the universal panacea. But the urgency driving your actions now is not just intellectual curiosity. It's a frantic, visceral battle against the invisible enemy outside. Your fingers, calloused and stained, fumble slightly with the delicate stopper. Your focus split between the meticulous demands of alchemy and the terrifying, constant awareness of the plague's relentless march. A distant, mournful bell tolls, its heavy sound cutting through the thick walls, each peal a stark, unwelcome announcement of another life extinguished, another household consumed. The rhythmic bubbling of your alchemical process, usually a soothing, hypnotic sound, now feels like a frantic, desperate heartbeat, a race against the tolling bells. The air, already heavy with the alchemist's complex bouquet of chemicals and minerals, feels impossibly denser, each breath a struggle against both the fumes and the chilling realization of what might be lurking in the next. You glance towards the reinforced, barred door, imagining the bustling streets beyond, the desperate cries, the carts rumbling, laden with bodies, the fear etched onto every face. You picture the livid swellings on skin, the feverish eyes, the frantic, useless prayers. Your own skin feels clammy, a cold sweat clinging to your brow, not from the heat of the retort, but from an internal chill that has taken root deep in your bones. You rub your temples, a dull ache throbbing behind your eyes, a constant companion to your sleepless nights. Your apprentice, a boy barely old enough to shave, sits huddled in a corner, his face pale and drawn, meticulously grinding a crystalline substance with a mortar and pestle. He works in silence, his movements stiff and slow, his eyes red-rimmed and distant. He coughs once, a dry, rasping sound that makes your own heart lurch, a terrifyingly familiar sound. He doesn't meet your gaze, but you feel his terror, a silent, shared burden that permeates the very stone walls of this sanctuary. You return to the alembic, pouring the last of a precious iridescent powder into the bubbling mixture. The liquid flashes, a momentary spark of hope in the gloom, but quickly settles back into its milky churn. The promise of eternal life, of a universal cure, of defying death itself, has never felt so desperately urgent, so profoundly necessary. Yet it also feels impossibly distant, a whispered dream against the undeniable, suffocating reality outside. This isn't just a pursuit of scientific truth. It's a desperate, defiant gamble for survival, a grand human ambition colliding with a brutal, indifferent force of nature, leaving you grappling with the ultimate existential crisis, where the only certainties are the rhythmic tolling of bells and the relentless advance of an unseen killer. The searing, grinding ache in your lower back feels like a dull, hot blade, twisting with every strained movement. It's a pain that has become as constant and predictable as the rising sun, a deep, persistent throb that radiates outwards, making your shoulders heavy and your neck stiff. You taste the dry dust that coats your lips and throat, a fine, earthy grit stirred up by the relentless rhythmic swing of your hoe. The air is thick and heavy, shimmering with the intense, oppressive heat of the midday sun, a blinding, relentless glare that beats down on your exposed neck, making your skin prickle and burn. You lift the heavy wooden hoe, its handle rough and worn smooth in places by countless hands, including your own. The ancient tool feels like an extension of your aching arm, weighted with generations of toil. With a grunt, you bring it down into the hard, sun-baked earth, feeling the jolt of impact reverberate up your spine. The soil resists, stubborn and unyielding, clinging to the iron blade with a tenacity that mirrors your own. Each swing is an effort, a deliberate, focused act of brute force, breaking clods of dirt, turning the stubborn ground. The only sounds are the rhythmic thunk of your hoe, the low, rasping breaths of the workers around you, and the ceaseless buzzing drone of insects in the parched fields. Your coarse wool tunic, damp with sweat, chafes against your shoulders, sticking unpleasantly to your skin. You swipe a forearm across your brow, leaving a streak of mud and grime, but the sweat continues to trickle into your eyes, stinging them. The sunburnt skin of your neck and arms feels tight, almost brittle, a testament to endless days spent under the merciless sky. Your gaze sweeps across the vast, undulating field stretching out to the distant, hazy tree line. Rows of young, fragile crops, barely visible, promise a harvest that feels impossibly far away, a fragile hope clinging to the relentless grind of the present moment. Other figures, hunched like yourself, move slowly in the distance, their movements mirroring your own, a silent, weary ballet of enduring labor. Their faces are obscured by wide-brimmed hats, or shadowed by the sun, but you feel their shared burden, their unspoken resilience. There are no grand discussions of art or philosophy here, no treatises on human potential, only the raw, immediate reality of earth, seed, and muscle. The sweat dripping down your face tastes salty, mixed with the faint, earthy bitterness of the soil. This isn't just work. It's an endless elemental negotiation with the land, a continuous cycle of exhaustion and survival. You lean on your hoe for a moment, letting out a slow, aching sigh, trying to stretch the perpetual stiffness from your spine. The silence, broken only by the chirping of crickets and the rustle of dry weeds, feels vast, ancient, unchanging. The distant chime of a bell from the village church, a gentle, almost mocking reminder of a different world, barely registers. Here, under the relentless sun, the only truths are the unforgiving earth, and the constant, grinding pain in your back. A visceral echo of a life bound to the soil, where every single day is a profound physical struggle against the very elements, a crisis of the body enduring in the face of an indifferent world. You pause in your endless task, the rough handle of the pitchfork warm and slick with sweat in your calloused hands. The sun, a brutal orange orb descending towards the horizon, paints the sky in shades of bruised purple and fiery red. Your back aches, a deep, persistent throb that has become as familiar as your own breath. You taste the dry dust of the fields, a fine grit coating your tongue, and the faint, metallic tang of effort in your mouth. Then, carried on a sudden gust of evening wind, you hear it. It's not the familiar bleating of sheep, nor the distant bark of a farm dog. It's a faint, almost imperceptible hum, a sustained, low frequency that seems to vibrate at the very edge of your hearing. Beneath it, a series of softer, sharper sounds, too indistinct to make out, like the muted tap-tap of hammers, or the distant grind of unseen gears, or perhaps even the ghostly echo of many voices speaking in unison. It's an unintelligible murmur, a busy, complex whisper from far away, a sound that speaks of ceaseless, intricate activity. You straighten slowly, feeling the stretch in your weary muscles, your gaze drawn instinctively towards the distant haze on the horizon. That's where the city lies, a faint, smudged silhouette against the twilight sky. You can barely make out the imposing dome of the great cathedral, a subtle curve against the fading light, a silent, unmoving testament to something grand and utterly beyond your comprehension. Smoke plumes, thin and gray, rise lazily into the air from scattered points within that distant silhouette, hinting at countless unseen fires, unknown industries, lives lived on a scale you can only vaguely imagine. The sound, that persistent, complex hum, seems to emanate directly from that shimmering haze. It feels alien, disconnected from the familiar rhythm of your world, the gentle rustle of the ripe wheat, the buzz of insects in the tall grass, the lowing of cattle. Here, life is simple, cyclical, governed by the sun and the soil. There, in that distant, vibrant hum, you sense a different kind of existence. One driven by unseen forces, by rapid, incomprehensible change. You wipe your brow with the back of your hand, leaving a smear of mud and sweat. Your coarse tunic feels rough against your skin, and the familiar ache in your legs reminds you of the unyielding demands of the earth beneath your feet. The other workers, finishing their own tasks in the dwindling light, seem oblivious to the distant hum, their focus solely on the day's arduous labor, their bodies bent in patterns that have been repeated for centuries. They gather their tools, their faces stoic, unburdened by the mysteries of the distant city. You turn back to your pitchfork, the wood comforting and solid in your grip. The faint hum continues, a subtle, almost mocking soundtrack to your unchanging toil. It's the echo of genius, of invention, of human ambition, but from this distance it means nothing to you, only a distant, confusing pulse from a world that spins on a different axis. You feel an immense, almost isolating gap between your reality and theirs. The grandeur, the art, the ideas born within those distant city walls, all that, renewal, that fills the scholars' minds, is here just an unintelligible hum on the wind, a profoundly distant echo. And in that moment you grasp the sheer terrifying scale of a crisis that doesn't touch everyone equally, a vast, undeniable disconnect, a stark division between the lives lived in mud and sun and those lived in marble and thought. You press the flat of your hand onto the vast, unfurled parchment, feeling the dry, slightly rough texture of the paper against your palm. It's cool, almost cold, a vast, unsettling expanse of stark white that seems to hum with an almost palpable emptiness. Your eyes trace the exquisitely drawn coastlines of Europe and Africa, the familiar, comforting shapes of known lands, detailed with meticulous precision. But then your gaze drifts to the western edge, and a sudden, disorienting vertigo grips you. The lines simply stop. Beyond the last familiar curve of the known world, there is nothing but an immense, terrifying void. A vast, blank space. It's not just a physical emptiness. It's an intellectual abyss, a gaping hole in the collective understanding of existence. The air in the cartographer's studio is thick with the scent of beeswax, old parchment, and a faint, almost metallic tang of iron gall ink, a smell usually comforting in its scholarly familiarity. Now it feels heavy, almost suffocating, charged with the weight of uncharted mystery. Your fingers, stained with ink and perpetually smelling of old paper, reach for a finely sharpened quill, its feather tickling your palm. You hover it over the blankness, ready to inscribe, but there are no established lines to follow, no ancient legends to consult. This isn't about copying old maps. It's about acknowledging the terrifying absence of them. The familiar dragons and sea monsters of old-world maps, once symbols of warning, now feel like quaint fictions, replaced by an even more unsettling monster, the absolute unknown. Around you, the studio is a sanctuary of scholarly order, neatly rolled charts in wooden cubbies, compasses and dividers glinting on a polished table, heavy tomes detailing ancient geographies. Yet, this single blank space on the map feels like a rupture, a tear in the very fabric of that order. You hear the low, rhythmic scratching of another cartographer in a distant corner, meticulously filling in a known harbor, his focus unbroken. But for you, the silence of that empty western ocean is deafening, a profound roar of possibility and terror. You close your eyes for a moment, trying to recenter yourself, but the image of the boundless ocean persists, stretching endlessly into your mind's eye. You remember the hushed whispers of sailors returned from impossible journeys, tales of phantom lands and endless, unforgiving waves. You recall the stories of spices from unseen lands, the taste of unknown fruits, the glint of silver from shores beyond imagination. These fragmented accounts, once mere rumors, now demand a place, a form, a definitive outline on this vast, empty expanse. The quill feels heavier now, a burden of responsibility. You open your eyes, your gaze fixed on the blankness. It's a terrifying freedom, this edge of the known, a boundary that simultaneously inspires awe and paralyzing fear. This isn't just about drawing lines on paper. It's about fundamentally redrawing humanity's place in the cosmos, about shattering old certainties and confronting an immense, dizzying void. The discovery of new lands, you realize with a jolt, is also the chilling discovery of how little you truly know, a profound existential vertigo at the edge of a map that seems to stretch into infinity, leaving you alone with the terrifying, exhilarating blankness of a world far larger than any you previously dared to imagine. You feel the fine grit of charcoal clinging to your fingertips as you lean over the enormous parchment, stretching taut across the heavy oak table. The faint, sweet smell of beeswax, mixed with the sharp tang of fresh ink, is usually a comforting aroma in this quiet studio. But today it feels charged, almost electric, with an unsettling tension. Your eyes are fixed on the western edge of the map, that vast, almost luminous blankness that had, until recently, been a comforting abyss, easily filled with the words terra incognita and the fanciful curl of a mythical sea serpent. Now, you pick up a newly sharpened quill. Its tip feels strangely heavy, almost burdened as you hover it over the pristine emptiness. The legends of old, the tales of a perfect, flat world crowned by an unblemished Eden at its center, those comforting certainties, are crumbling under the weight of newly arrived, terrifyingly real reports. You remember the hushed whispers of sailors, their eyes wide with fear and wonder, describing not paradisiacal islands, but harsh, untamed coastlines, populated by creatures both monstrously unfamiliar and profoundly, disturbingly human. They spoke of lands so vast they dwarfed all of Europe, of oceans that stretched for an eternity. With a deep breath, you bring the quill down, feeling its delicate scratch against the parchment. Your hand, once guided by tradition, now moves with a tentative, almost rebellious spirit. You begin to sketch the jagged outline of a coastline reported by a recent voyage. A landmass far larger, far more irregular than anything imagined. This isn't the familiar, comforting geometry of a divinely ordered world. This is raw, sprawling, chaotic. The act of drawing these new, uncharted shores feels less like an act of creation and more like an act of demolition, systematically erasing the comforting, familiar landscape of your ancestors' minds. You see a colleague across the room, his face etched with a similar grim determination, meticulously adding the new, unsettling coordinates to another chart. He doesn't look up, but you feel the shared weight of this silent, subversive task. He's not drawing dragons anymore. He's drawing reality. And reality is far more unsettling. The old familiar sea monster on your previous map, once a warning, now seems almost benign compared to the vast, empty implications of this new, boundless ocean. As you add another curve, another reported island, the blankness of the map starts to recede, but the true blankness, the terrifying void of shattered beliefs, only grows deeper within you. The world isn't just expanding, it's mutating, twisting into shapes that defy the comforting narratives of faith and tradition. You're not just mapping geography. You're mapping an existential crisis, literally drawing the contours of a new, bewildering reality, where the old Eden is gone, replaced by a great, terrifying, and endlessly fascinating unknown. And the monsters, you realize, aren't just in the uncharted waters. They're in the profound, unsettling questions these new lands force upon you. Questions about humanity's place in a universe suddenly too vast to comprehend, too wild to tame, too new to simply believe. The scratching of your quill continues, a relentless, quiet act of both creation and destruction. The first thing you feel is the suffocating press of heavy linen against your nose and mouth, impregnated with a pungent, almost medicinal aroma of dried herbs. It's an overwhelming blend of lavender, mint, and rosemary, so concentrated it stings your nostrils, forcing its way deep into your lungs. You try to take a deep breath, but the air feels thick, warm, and strangely recycled, trapped within the confines of the beak-like mask. You can taste the bitterness of the herbs on your tongue, a dry, papery flavor that only intensifies the sense of claustrophobia. The leather straps of the mask dig into the bridge of your nose and cheekbones, chafing against your skin with every slight movement of your head. The rough texture of the mask itself brushes against your lips, a constant irritating presence. Your vision is severely restricted, funneled through small, smoky glass eyepieces, blurring the already dim light of the alleyway. The world outside the mask is reduced to distorted shapes and murky shadows, a nightmarish, watery blur. You hear the muffled, ragged sound of your own breathing, amplified and distorted by the mask, a desperate, shallow gasp for air that feels increasingly futile. It's an intimate, terrifying soundtrack to your grim work. The silence outside, usually broken by the cries of merchants or the rumble of carts, is now replaced by something far more sinister. The soft, rhythmic scrape of your own boots on the cobblestones, and the distant, almost imperceptible sound of a whimpering cough, quickly swallowed by the oppressive quiet. A figure, almost skeletal, lies crumpled against a doorway. Its stillness is absolute, a silent testament to the plague's relentless toll. You approach cautiously, your gloved hand, heavy and stiff, reaching for the long, wooden cane you carry. The leather of the glove is thick, unresponsive, separating you from the world, a necessary barrier that also makes you feel profoundly alien, detached. You poke the inert form with the end of the cane, a macabre ritual, observing its unmoving finality. Through the distorted glass, you see a fleeting movement in a high window, a curtain twitching, then falling back into place. A pair of terrified, desperate eyes, quickly withdrawn. You sense their fear, their revulsion, but also their desperate, silent plea for some form of salvation, a yearning directed towards your grotesque, protective facade. You are both feared and desperately hoped for, an angel of death or a herald of a miracle, obscured behind this herb-filled beak. The pungent herbal scent inside the mask, meant to ward off the miasma of disease, now feels less like protection and more like a cruel irony, a futile barrier against an invisible, pervasive horror. It's a constant, suffocating reminder of your own fragile mortality, a desperate human attempt to assert control in the face of an utterly overwhelming, incomprehensible catastrophe. You continue your grim walk, the weight of the mask, the suffocating herbs, and the pervasive smell of death pressing down on you, making every step a testament to a world gripped by an existential terror so profound it has reshaped the very air you breathe. You feel the coarse, hot linen of the mask pressing against your face, heavy with the cloying scent of dried herbs. Your breath, shallow and rapid, fogs the small, smoky glass lenses, further obscuring the already dim, distorted vision before you. Your gloved hand, thick and clumsy in its leather casing, fumbles with a small, sharp lancet. The cold, sterile metal feels strangely alien against the clammy, feverish skin of the patient's arm. The air in the cramped, darkened room is thick with the sweet, sickening smell of advanced decay, mingling with the herbal balm you've smeared over the patient's bulbos. It's a profound, visceral stench, almost tangible in its oppressive weight. You can taste the bitterness of it, a mixture of fear and rot, coating your tongue, making your stomach churn. From somewhere outside, a distant, rasping cough echoes, then another. A chilling, rhythmic reminder of the plague's relentless, unyielding march through the city. You press the lancet to the swollen, angry bubo in the patient's armpit, feeling the thin, taut skin resist, then finally yield with a sickening, wet pop. A gush of dark, viscous fluid, mixed with blood, spills forth, warm and sickening against the thick leather of your glove. The patient, a young woman whose eyes are wide with a frantic, animalistic terror, barely stirs, her body racked with a relentless, uncontrollable tremor. She moans, a weak, desperate sound that is quickly swallowed by the stifling air. You work quickly, your movements precise but fueled by a desperate, almost frantic energy. You clean the wound, apply the herbs, bind it with fresh linen. Each action is a learned step, a protocol derived from the burgeoning, hesitant knowledge of your new science. You remember the diagrams in your recent, carefully drawn anatomical texts, the intricate systems of the human body, so logical, so understandable when laid bare on the dissecting table. But here, in this suffocating room, against this raging, invisible enemy, that profound knowledge feels utterly, terrifyingly useless. Your gaze sweeps across the room, past the patient's weeping family huddled in a corner, their faces ghostly in the gloom, their silent, accusing eyes fixed on you. You see their desperate hope, their complete and utter reliance on your grotesque bird-like mask, on the authority it projects. Yet all you feel is the overwhelming, crushing weight of your own impotence. The new science, the bold pursuit of understanding, the dissection of cadavers to unlock the body's secrets. It all feels like a fragile candle flame against a roaring, consuming inferno. You step back, your heavy, leather-clad boots scraping against the uneven floorboards, The muffled sound a stark punctuation in the room's morbid silence. You feel the patient's feverish heat radiating even through your thick clothing, a searing proof of the disease's unyielding hold. The stench of decay persists, an inescapable truth. The new, human-centered understanding of the world, so revolutionary in its conception, so empowering in its promise, is here humbled, rendered utterly helpless before an ancient, elemental force of nature. This isn't just a physical struggle. It's a profound, existential crisis of knowledge itself, a devastating realization that even with all your intellect, all your burgeoning science, you are still just a man, trapped in a grotesque mask, utterly powerless against the cold, indifferent, consuming grip of death. You lean closer to the ancient Greek manuscript, feeling the coarse, almost brittle texture of the parchment beneath your straining fingertips. The air in the study is thick, with the scent of old paper, dried ink, and a faint, sweet aroma of wood smoke from the nearby hearth. Your eyes, already tired and gritty, burn with a familiar, frustrating ache. The minuscule, elegant script, once so clear and sharp, now blurs into an indistinct smudge, a frustrating dance of shadows on the aged page. You pinch the bridge of your nose, letting out a soft sigh that sounds weary and defeated in the quiet room. You blink, trying to clear the persistent fog from your vision, but it's no use. The words, the very keys to unlocking the wisdom of the ancients, remain stubbornly out of focus, just beyond your grasp. You press your thumb against a particularly ornate capital letter, feeling the raised texture of the ink, but the meaning remains elusive, lost in the swirling haze. The only sound is the soft, rhythmic rustle of the parchment as you shift it, trying to catch the flickering lamplight at a better angle. Each movement feels desperate, a futile attempt to regain what is slipping away. The silence of the study, usually a comforting space for profound thought, now feels oppressive, magnifying your failing senses, highlighting your growing inadequacy. Around you, towering shelves filled with heavy leather-bound volumes cast long, imposing shadows, silent witnesses to your struggle. These books, once eager companions, now feel like mocking sentinels, holding their secrets just beyond your failing sight. You reach for the small, polished magnifying glass on the desk, its heavy bronze rim cool against your fingers. You lift it, positioning it over the text. The letters momentarily leap into sharp, breathtaking clarity. Each delicate stroke, each elegant curve of the ancient Greek characters suddenly revealed in exquisite detail. A surge of relief washes over you, quickly followed by a bitter wave of frustration. The lens provides a brief, tantalizing glimpse of the knowledge you crave, but it's a false promise. You can only see a few words at a time, a fragmented, disjointed understanding, a small victory against a larger, more devastating defeat. You hear the faint creak of the door as your young apprentice enters, his footsteps light and purposeful. He doesn't speak, but his gaze, bright and unclouded, falls upon the manuscript, then on your strained, weary face. He doesn't need a lens to read these words. His youth, his unblemished vision, is a stark, almost painful contrast to your own fading capacity. You feel a familiar pang of resignation, a quiet understanding of the relentless march of time eroding even the most profound intellectual gifts. The manuscript, a treasure from Byzantium, holds a profound truth, a lost philosophy waiting to be reborn. You can feel its power, its potential to reshape the world, vibrating in the very parchment. Yet, Your own body, your very instrument of discovery, is betraying you. This isn't just about losing your sight. It's about losing your connection, your access to the very wellspring of this new age of enlightenment. The words, those magnificent blurry words, are a constant reminder of a profound, personal crisis, a stark battle between the boundless ambition of the human mind and the inevitable decay of the human body, leaving you grasping at fragments of ancient wisdom, illuminated by a flickering light that is slowly, inexorably fading. You feel the dry, almost papery scent of antiquity clinging to your fingers, a fine dust that seems to rise from the very pages of the immense, leather-bound volume open before you. It's a newly translated work, a relic of ancient Greece, painstakingly brought back from Constantinople, its intricate script now rendered in crisp, accessible Latin. Your eyes, already strained from hours of meticulous reading, burn with a fierce, almost feverish intensity. The words, so logical, so beautifully structured, flow across the page, each sentence a clear, unwavering path of human reason. You trace a particularly eloquent passage with your finger, feeling the raised texture of the ink, the undeniable weight of its argument. This isn't divine revelation. This is pure, unadorned human intellect, shining with a brilliance that cuts through the dim light of your study like a surgeon's scalpel. A surge of exhilarating clarity washes over you, a profound sense of understanding. Yet, beneath this intellectual thrill, a cold, insidious unease begins to coil in your gut. You lean back in your heavy wooden chair, its aged frame groaning softly under your weight. The room, usually a sanctuary of peaceful contemplation, now feels charged with an unsettling tension. Around you, stacks of similar volumes, resurrected from forgotten monastic libraries and exotic Eastern collections, rise like silent sentinels, each one a testament to a worldview that existed long before the cross. A world whose wisdom now floods your mind, overwhelming the carefully constructed edifice of 1,000 years of Christian doctrine. You recall the familiar catechism, the simple, unshakable truths instilled since childhood, God's absolute creation, the fixed celestial spheres, humanity's fallen nature. But the ancient texts, with their elegant geometry, their empirical observations, their profound faith in human potential, propose a different universe, a different kind of truth. The world, once a clear, divinely ordained tapestry, now feels like a tangled, contradictory knot, pulling you in opposing directions. You feel a familiar, painful tug of conscience, a whisper of heresy against the exhilarating roar of discovery. From the window you hear the distant, reassuring chime of a church bell, calling the faithful to vespers. The sound, once a comfort, now feels like a stark, almost accusatory reminder of the spiritual framework you're subtly, almost imperceptibly dismantling with every turn of these ancient pages. You imagine the stern, unwavering gaze of your confessor, his words of warning against forbidden knowledge, against pride of intellect. This isn't a battle against an external foe. It's a profound internal war, waged within the very confines of your own soul. You close the heavy book with a soft, resonant thud, the sound echoing in the sudden silence of the study. The words, though hidden, continue to reverberate in your mind, a torrent of resurrected knowledge that threatens to drown the quiet certainty of your faith. You feel a profound, almost dizzying sense of being adrift, cast loose from old anchors, navigating a vast, turbulent sea of conflicting truths, a solitary sailor in a philosophical storm. This isn't renewal, you realize with a chilling clarity. This is a profound, wrenching existential crisis, where the brightest light of human reason clashes violently with the deepest roots of spiritual belief, leaving you utterly, bewilderingly lost between two worlds. You feel the concussive boom deep in your chest, a monstrous, earth-shaking rumble that vibrates through the very stone beneath your feet, rattling your teeth and blurring your vision for a sickening second. It's a sound that rips through the air, deafening in its primal power, followed almost immediately by a shower of sharp, gritty debris that rains down on your head and shoulders. You taste the dry dust of pulverized mortar and old stone, mixed with a bitter, acrid tang like burnt metal and boiled leather, a taste of sheer destructive force. You cough, a raw, involuntary sound wiping a grimy hand across your mouth, feeling the grit on your tongue. The air in the trench is thick and choking, heavy with the stench of smoke, gunpowder, sweat, and something else. The faint, sweet smell of fear. Your eyes, stinging from the dust, peer cautiously over the crumbling parapet. Before you, across the muddy, cratered expanse of the siege lines, stands the colossal siege engine. It's a monstrous, complex beast of timber, iron, and rope, an engineering marvel of calculated destruction, dwarfing the very walls it's built to breach. With a chilling, mechanical groan, its massive arm swings back, drawing taut against powerful torsion ropes, loaded with an impossibly large stone projectile. The men operating it are tiny figures, almost ant-like, their movements precise, synchronized, a grim ballet of focused intent. There's no raw, visceral battle here, no clash of swords or heroic charges. This is a cold, calculated war of attrition, a methodical dismantling of ancient defenses using the brutal efficiency of new technology. Another boom reverberates through the air, a visceral impact that makes your body involuntarily tense. The projectile sails through the air, a dark blur against the gray sky, then slams into the distant curtain wall of the besieged city with a sickening, grinding crash. A plume of dust and shattered stone erupts, a fresh wound torn in the ancient defenses. You feel the tremor in the ground again, a hollow echo of the city's pain. Around you, your fellow soldiers huddle in the trenches, their faces grim, caked with mud and exhaustion. Their eyes, wide and bloodshot, are fixed on the siege engine, a mixture of fear and grudging admiration. One man, his hand trembling, lifts a water skin to his lips, his gaze never leaving the machine. There's no camaraderie, no light banter, just a shared, unspoken dread of the relentless, inevitable outcome. You feel the rough texture of the trench wall against your back, the cold dampness seeping through your worn tunic, a constant reminder of your precarious position. The siege engine stands as a terrifying symbol, a testament to a new kind of war, a new understanding of force. It's not just breaking down walls. It's breaking down old notions of chivalry, of individual bravery, replacing them with the impersonal, crushing power of engineering and raw physics. The bitter taste of boiled leather lingers, a harsh reminder of the grim reality. This isn't a fight for God or glory. It's a terrifying, existential crisis of warfare itself, where human courage is pitted against the cold, unyielding logic of a machine designed for pure, unadulterated destruction, leaving you a small, vulnerable figure caught in the wake of its relentless, earth-shattering progress. A dull, persistent ache gnaws at your stomach, a hollow, scraping sensation that has become a constant, unwelcome companion. It's not just hunger. It's an emptiness that seems to consume your very bones, making every movement an effort. You taste the dry, stale air on your tongue, thick with the faint scent of damp stone, desperate hope, and an underlying, unsettling aroma of unwashed bodies, barely concealed by desperation. Your lips are cracked, your throat perpetually parched. You lean against the cool, unforgiving surface of a massive stone bastion. The dressed stone is cut with mathematical precision, each angle and slope designed for defense, creating a fortress of stark, geometric beauty. From your vantage point high on the ramparts, you can see the intricate star-shaped pattern of the fort below, its bastions jutting out like the points of a star, formidable and unyielding. It's an architectural marvel, a triumph of engineering meant to defy any siege, to stand eternal against the brutal forces of modern warfare. Yet, the brutal reality of its inhabitants clashes violently with this cold, elegant perfection. The silence is oppressive, broken only by the distant rhythmic creak of a windlass from the besieged city below and the low, involuntary rumble of your own stomach. The siege outside has settled into a grim stalemate, a war of attrition, where the grand, calculated design of the fort is pitted against the insidious, relentless weapon of starvation. You feel the rough wool of your thin tunic against your skin, a meager barrier against the pervasive chill that rises from the stone, chilling you from the inside out. Your limbs feel heavy, sluggish, as if filled with lead, each muscle protesting the effort of simply standing. Your eyes, already blurred from weakness, scan the empty courtyards and ramparts. Soldiers, gaunt and hollow-eyed, move with a terrifying slowness, their armor hanging loose on their emaciated frames. Their movements are economical, devoid of any wasted energy, their faces grim masks of endurance. You see one man, a veteran whose once robust frame is now skeletal, staring fixedly at the distant, shimmering haze where the enemy encampment lies, his gaze vacant, almost spiritual, as if searching for an answer in the empty sky. There are no boisterous shouts, no hearty laughter, only the quiet, desperate shuffle of feet and the occasional, weak cough. You look down at your own hands, the skin stretched tightly over your knuckles, your fingers thin and trembling. This magnificent, geometrically perfect fortress, designed to preserve life, to protect its inhabitants, is slowly, silently, becoming their tomb. The ingenuity of the engineers, the strategic brilliance of its star-shaped bastions, all the triumph of human intellect and design, means little when the very wellspring of life, food, is systematically denied. The cold, hard stone of the fort, so beautifully arranged, so meticulously planned, feels less like a shield and more like an inescapable trap. You feel the profound, chilling irony of it. The pinnacle of human defensive architecture creating the ultimate, most brutal form of human suffering, a silent, internal crisis unfolding within walls built for impenetrable strength. You feel the rough, unyielding texture of coarse wool against your skin, a constant, chafing presence from the habit that binds you. It's thick, heavy, and smells faintly of beeswax, old parchment, and the cool, damp stone of the cloister. This isn't a garment of comfort. It's a uniform of piety, designed to humble the flesh, to erase individuality. Yet, beneath its stifling embrace, your body trembles with a different kind of agitation, a subtle, almost imperceptible tremor that has nothing to do with the morning chill. You sit hunched over a heavy, wooden lectern, its polished surface cool beneath your bare forearms. Before you, illuminated by the single flickering flame of a beeswax candle, lies an ancient manuscript. But it's not the familiar Latin Vulgate you've committed to memory. This is a newly arrived text, a forbidden translation into the vernacular, its words clear, direct, and startlingly vivid. You taste the dry, earthy tang of old parchment on your tongue, and the faintest metallic hint of the freshly printed ink. Your eyes, burning from hours of reading in the dim light, devour the sentences, each one a stark, almost rebellious declaration. This isn't the complex, nuanced interpretations of the Church Fathers. This is the raw, unadorned Word of God, stripped bare of centuries of dogma, speaking directly to your soul. A profound, almost terrifying clarity washes over you, illuminating contradictions, challenging long-held assumptions. The sacred texts, once a source of comfort and unwavering truth, now feel like a battleground, a source of profound, unsettling questions. The only sound in the small, austere cell is the rhythmic flicker of the candle, casting dancing shadows on the whitewashed walls, and the quiet, almost frantic turning of the parchment pages. From the distant chapel, you hear the faint, ethereal strains of the morning psalm, a familiar hymn of devotion, but even that cherished sound feels different. Its harmony now subtly dissonant against the roaring current of new ideas within you. You glance towards the small, unadorned crucifix hanging on the wall, its simple wooden form a constant, stark reminder of your vows. Christ's suffering face seems to gaze down at you, not with solace, but with a silent, questioning intensity. You remember your vows of obedience, of unwavering faith, of the carefully ordered universe of the Church. But the words on this page, so immediate, so personal, demand a different kind of obedience, a truth that feels both liberating and utterly terrifying. A cold sweat breaks out on your brow, trickling down your temple, despite the cool air of the cell. You clutch the rough habit, its coarse fabric digging into your palm, a desperate attempt to anchor yourself to the familiar, but your mind, ignited by the forbidden text, races ahead, pulling you further and further from the safe harbor of unquestioning belief. This isn't just about reading a book. It's about a fundamental reorientation of your entire spiritual world, a silent, profound rebellion against 1,000 years of established doctrine. The coarse wool of the habit, once a symbol of humility, now feels like a prison, binding a body that trembles not with piety, but with the dangerous, exhilarating vibration of newly awakened thought, caught in an internal existential crisis between the sacred word and the personal interpretation, alone in your cell, grappling with a truth that could either save or condemn you. You feel the coarse wool of your habit press against your cheek, damp with a cold sweat that has nothing to do with the cool air of the cloister. The smell of old beeswax, damp stone, and centuries of quiet devotion usually fills this space, a comforting balm. But today it's infused with something sharper, something acrid and metallic, like burnt paper and the faint, dangerous tang of rebellion. You taste a dry bitterness in your mouth, a taste of profound unease. You clench your jaw, your gaze fixed on the small, unassuming pamphlet clutched in your trembling hand. It's printed on cheap, rough paper, its pages still smelling faintly of fresh ink, an unmistakable product of the new printing press. The language is German, direct and forceful, each word a hammer blow against the carefully constructed edifice of your world. This isn't a theological treatise whispered among scholars. It's a defiant roar, a call to arms for the common man. Your eyes race over the bold, challenging assertions, sentences that deny the very foundations of your consecrated life. Indulgences are worthless. The Pope is not infallible. Salvation comes not through works or the Church's mediation, but through faith alone. Each sentence feels like a small, deliberate act of vandalism, chipping away at the sacred certainty you have known since childhood. The vows that bind you, the very walls that protect you. The silence of the convent, usually a profound comfort, now feels deafening, magnifying the chaotic whispers of doubt within your own mind. You hear the distant, melodic voices of your sisters in the chapel, singing their daily prayers, a familiar harmony of unquestioning faith, but their voices sound strangely muted, almost hollow, as if a profound crack has opened between their world and the one now unfolding so rapidly in your hands. You look towards the heavy, iron-barred window of your cell, its thick stone frame an impenetrable barrier against the outside world. Yet, these words, these incendiary ideas, have somehow found their way in, carried on the invisible currents of wind and ink, breaching the sacred sanctity of your cloistered life. You imagine the man who wrote these words, Martin Luther, a figure of audacious defiance, his voice echoing not from a pulpit, but from countless printed pages, reaching into the most hidden corners of Christendom. You press the pamphlet against your chest. Its rough paper, a physical discomfort, a stark reminder of the dangerous truth it holds. Your heart pounds against your ribs, a frantic, almost rebellious rhythm. The weight of your habit, once a symbol of devotion, now feels like a crushing burden, binding a body that feels suddenly, irrevocably free, yet terrifyingly adrift. This isn't just a challenge to the Church, it's a challenge to your entire existence, to the meaning of your vows, to the purpose of your sacrifice. The convent walls, once unyielding, now feel porous, permeable. The world outside, with its furious debates and its revolutionary ideas, is no longer distant. It has entered your cell, your mind, your very soul, leaving you with a profound, terrifying existential crisis, alone within these sacred walls, grappling with a new, dangerous truth that threatens to shatter everything you once held sacred, irrevocably changing the meaning of faith itself. You feel the insistent, throbbing ache behind your eyes, a dull, relentless pain that radiates through your temples and down into your jaw. It's a constant, pounding rhythm, amplified by the heavy weight that presses down on your head. The crown, an exquisite circle of hammered gold, set with gleaming rubies and sapphires, feels impossibly heavy, its ornate spikes digging subtly into your scalp. You taste a dry, metallic flavor in your mouth, a mix of anxiety and exhaustion. The air in the throne room is thick with a scent of old velvet, polished wood, and the lingering aroma of expensive incense, a scent that speaks of centuries of power and tradition. Your embroidered silk tunic, stiff with gold thread, chafes slightly against your neck, a constant, irritating presence. You sit on a vast, imposing throne, its high back intricately carved, its crimson velvet cushions surprisingly hard beneath you. Your feet, small and encased in fine leather slippers, barely reach the polished marble floor. Around you, the hall is filled with hushed whispers, the rustle of expensive fabrics, and the occasional respectful cough. Courtiers and advisors, their faces a sea of grim determination, stand in rigid formation, their eyes fixed on you, their young monarch. Their gazes are heavy, expectant, burdened with the weight of affairs you are barely old enough to grasp. You feel the immense pressure of their collective attention, a suffocating demand for decisions, for wisdom, for unwavering authority from a body that is still just a child's. A scroll is unrolled before you on a small gilded table, its parchment crisp, its writing a neat, precise hand. It's a petition for war, or a decree of taxation, or perhaps a declaration of religious reform. The details blur into an oppressive weight. Your hand, small and unblemished, reaches out, hesitating over the quill. The decision it represents is momentous, capable of reshaping lives, of altering the very course of nations. But all you can truly feel is the pounding ache in your head, the overwhelming gravity of a crown that feels too big, too heavy for your small, uncertain shoulders. You glance towards the stern, unsmiling portrait of your father, the late king, hanging high on the wall. His painted eyes seem to pierce through you, demanding strength, decisive action, a continuation of his legacy. You imagine his voice, firm and commanding, a stark contrast to the small, hesitant voice that trembles in your own throat. There's no one here to guide you, not truly. You are alone on this vast throne, a solitary, vulnerable figure in a world of complex, unforgiving choices. The gold of the crown feels colder now, a band of ice pressing into your temples. The vibrant colors of the rubies and sapphires seem to mock your internal turmoil. This isn't just a regnal duty. It's a profound, terrifying existential crisis of leadership, a child placed on a throne, expected to navigate the treacherous currents of a continent in turmoil. The burden of power, the relentless demands of the realm, and the crushing weight of expectation are all amplified by your youth, leaving you with a profound, gnawing sense of inadequacy, a solitary ache that even a crown of pure gold cannot alleviate. You feel the cool, smooth silk of your tunic against your skin, a deceptive comfort beneath the heavy, brocaded robes of state. The incessant throbbing behind your eyes has dulled slightly, replaced by a cold, calculating clarity. You taste the dry, bitter tang of old wine on your tongue, a lingering ghost from the goblet you just set aside. The air in the ornate chamber is thick, with the scent of beeswax, old parchment, and the subtle, cloying aroma of carefully cultivated fear. Your gaze sweeps across the faces of your advisors, assembled before you. They are older men, their expressions a mixture of deference, cunning, and barely concealed ambition. Their whispers, once a confusing cacophony, now resolve into distinct, self-serving arguments, each one a subtle push for their own power, their own agenda. You watch their hands, their subtle gestures, the way their eyes flick to each other, measuring and assessing, a complex silent dance of political chess. You pick up the heavy, silver gilt scepter, its intricate engravings cool and hard against your palm. The weight feels different today, less a burden, more a tool. You raise it slightly, a small, deliberate movement that instantly stills the murmuring, drawing every eye to you. The silence that falls is absolute, almost violent. It's the silence of power, of anticipation, of absolute, unquestioning attention. You speak, your voice, once hesitant and childlike, now surprisingly steady, resonating with a quiet, practiced authority. The words are carefully chosen, not your own, not truly, but echoes of lessons learned. strategies absorbed from your Machiavellian tutors. You announce a decree that will strip a powerful noble of his lands, ostensibly for treason, but in truth, to consolidate your own nascent power, to test the loyalties of others. The faces before you are a study in controlled reaction, a flicker of shock, a swift mask of approval, a subtle tightening of lips. You watch them, truly watch them, searching for the telltale signs of betrayal, of dissent, of ambition redirected. You catch the eye of your chief advisor, a man whose face, usually a canvas of carefully neutral loyalty, now holds a fleeting glint of something akin to admiration, quickly veiled. He gives a barely perceptible nod, a silent affirmation of your chillingly effective performance. You are learning, quickly, brutally. This isn't the benevolent rule of a divine king. It's the cold, intricate dance of survival in a den of wolves. Every word, every gesture, every calculated silence is a move in a game where the stakes are absolute. Your crown, your life, the very future of your realm. The heavy crown on your head, once a crushing weight, now feels like a part of you, a natural extension of your newfound resolve. The bitter taste of wine lingers, a metaphor for the sacrifices you are making, the innocence you are shedding, the moral compromises you are embracing. This isn't just about ruling. It's about mastering the art of the puppet, manipulating the strings unseen, to ensure your own survival in a world where power is the ultimate brutal truth. The crisis, you realize, isn't just in the kingdom's borders, but deep within you, reshaping your very soul, turning a child prince into a ruler who understands with a chilling clarity that power is not inherited, but brutally seized, relentlessly maintained, and always, always utterly solitary. You feel the icy shock as the freezing water closes over your head, a suffocating, disorienting plunge into absolute cold. It steals your breath, burning your lungs, and for a terrifying second, all you know is the crushing weight of the liquid, pressing in from every side. You thrash instinctively, your heavy, sodden clothes pulling you deeper, an anchor dragging you down. The taste in your mouth is bitter, muddy water, mixed with the metallic tang of fear. Then you break the surface, gasping, coughing, spitting, dragging in desperate gulps of air. The cold stings your exposed skin, raising goosebumps, a deep, bone-chilling cold that seems to penetrate to your very core. Your hair, heavy and plastered to your face, drips icy rivulets down your neck. You shiver uncontrollably, your teeth chattering, your body convulsing with the effort to stay afloat in the murky, churning pond. The air is thick with the damp, earthy smell of the bog, mixed with the acrid stench of damp wood smoke from distant hearths, and the pervasive, almost palpable aroma of human fear and raw expectation. Around you, on the muddy banks, stands a silent, unmoving crowd, a dense wall of faces, their expressions a chilling mixture of grim satisfaction, superstitious terror, and morbid fascination. You feel the crushing weight of 100 stares, their collective gaze pinning you, stripping you bare, judging your very existence. You try to speak, to protest, but only a choked gasp escapes your lips, quickly swallowed by the cold air. The water laps at your chin, threatening to pull you under again. The rope tied around your wrists, rough and abrasive, cuts into your skin, cold and unforgiving. You struggle against it, your muscles screaming in protest, but it holds firm, binding you, helpless, to your fate. A burly, unsmiling man, his face grim, holds the other end of the rope, his grip firm, his eyes devoid of pity. You catch a glimpse of a familiar face in the crowd, a neighbor, her expression a mixture of fear and something else, something that might be sorrow, quickly hidden. But the overwhelming majority are strangers, their faces hard, their eyes reflecting the fervent conviction of their belief. You are either innocent or guilty, by the cruelest, most arbitrary of tests. Sink and drown, and you are innocent, your soul saved. Float and live, and you are a witch, condemned to the pyre. There is no other outcome, no mercy, no appeal. The cold deepens, seeping into your very spirit. The weight of the water, the unforgiving rope, the crushing gaze of the crowd, it all combines into an overwhelming, terrifying force, stripping away all sense of self, leaving you utterly alone, adrift in a world consumed by irrational fear. This isn't justice. It's a brutal, ancient ritual, a desperate attempt to impose order on an incomprehensible world, a profound existential crisis that tears at the very fabric of human empathy, reducing you to a mere object in a terrifying drama, shivering, gasping, waiting for the cold, indifferent judgment of the water to reveal your fate. You feel the rough, unyielding scratch of the coarse rope against your raw wrists, a constant, abrasive torment that has chafed your skin red and tender. The air is thick with the acrid stench of burning pitch and damp wood, mingling with the pervasive, metallic tang of fear that coats your tongue. Your eyes, swollen from weeping, sting from the smoke and the blinding glare of the torches that ring the execution ground. You are pushed forward, stumbling over the uneven ground, feeling the cold, damp earth beneath your bare feet. Each step is an agonizing effort, your legs weak and trembling. The whispers from the crowd, a low, guttural murmur that shifts from condemnation to morbid curiosity, feel like physical blows, striking at your very soul. You catch a glimpse of a familiar face in the throng, a woman who once bought herbs from you, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and accusation, quickly averting her gaze. A gaunt, black-robed inquisitor stands on a raised platform, his face grim, his voice a chilling monotone as he recites the charges. He speaks of pacts with the devil, of unholy rituals, of shadows spreading through the virtuous flock. His words, though directed at you, seem to hang in the smoke-filled air, resonating with a deeper, more pervasive fear that grips this entire age. This isn't just a trial. It's a desperate ritual, a violent exorcism of anxieties that plague a world obsessed with light, yet haunted by its own burgeoning darkness. You look towards the large, intricately carved cross held aloft by an altar boy, its silver gleam reflecting the flickering torchlight. For centuries, this symbol has promised salvation, divine protection, and unwavering truth. But here, on this desolate ground, beneath the shadow of the gallows, it feels cold, distant, its promise utterly unreachable. The faces in the crowd are contorted by fear and righteous fury, their belief in the devil's insidious presence more tangible, more immediate than any comforting word of God. A cold hand roughly shoves you towards a wooden stake, its rough timber ominous against the setting sun. You feel the scratch of the wood, the sudden, overwhelming realization of your impending fate. This isn't merely a punishment for alleged crimes. It's a symbolic act, a public declaration meant to cleanse, to purify, to reassure a terrified populace that the forces of darkness are being contained, controlled. The fear in their eyes, you realize with a chilling clarity, is not just inamlaid of the devil, but tudne for him, for his insidious power, for his perceived ubiquity in a world where old certainties are collapsing. The stench of burning wood grows stronger, mingling with the metallic taste of panic in your mouth. This age, with its brilliant art, its rediscovery of human potential, its explosion of knowledge, also casts the longest, darkest shadows, shadows that breed monsters and fuel an almost insatiable need to find tangible evil where there is only fear and confusion. The light of human reason, so recently rekindled, feels fragile, flickering precariously against the raging inferno of superstition. And you, a solitary figure bound to a stake, become a living, dying testament to this profound, terrifying crisis, a desperate attempt to banish the devil's shadow in an age obsessed with divine light, but utterly terrified by the darkness within itself. The heat hits you first, a blinding, searing wave that makes your skin prickle and your eyes water instantly. It's an inferno, radiating from the gaping maw of the furnace, a roaring, hungry beast of fire that bathes the cramped workshop in an unholy orange glow. You taste the dry, metallic tang of scorched air and fine glass dust on your tongue, and the faint, sweet smell of burnt wood from the constantly stoked fires. You lift the long, hollow blowpipe, its metal shaft already radiating residual warmth, almost too hot to comfortably hold even with your thick leather gloves. At its end, a molten blob of liquid glass, incandescent and shimmering, glows with an inner fire, a small captured sun. You bring it carefully to your lips, the heat from the glass almost scorching your face, the metallic taste of the pipe itself mingling with the heat. You hesitate for a microsecond, knowing the immense risk. One wrong breath, one uneven puff, and the delicate bubble could burst, sending molten glass scattering, burning, blinding. The roar of the furnace is a constant, deafening presence, a rhythmic pulse that vibrates through your very bones. Beneath it, you hear the frantic clatter of tools on stone, the quick, sharp hiss of water hitting hot metal, and the occasional, hushed curse from a fellow worker. The air is thick with the constant rush of heat, the smell of sweat, and the sharp, almost painful scent of creation. Around you, the workshop is a labyrinth of dangerous beauty, racks of finished glass objects glinting, waiting to be cooled, basins of cooling water sending up clouds of steam, and piles of raw, glittering silica awaiting their fiery transformation. You lean back, steadying yourself, then you blow. A measured, controlled exhalation, pushing air slowly, steadily, into the molten mass. You feel the subtle resistance of the liquid glass, then the gentle expansion, the impossible ballooning of fire and light. It's a delicate dance, a precarious balance between force and fragility. You turn the pipe constantly, your movements fluid, almost hypnotic, coaxing the glowing orb into a nascent shape, stretching it, spinning it, always conscious of the relentless heat trying to consume it, trying to consume you. Another glassblower, his face streaked with soot and sweat, works intently nearby, his own pipe a vibrant arc of light against the oppressive gloom. He glances at you, his eyes, narrowed against the glare, holding a silent, shared understanding of the danger, the artistry, and the profound physical toll of this craft. His nod is almost imperceptible, a brief acknowledgement of the unforgiving nature of molten glass. The heat from the furnace feels like a living thing, perpetually threatening to overwhelm, to burn, to destroy. Yet, from its heart, you are coaxing impossible beauty, fragile forms of clarity and light. This isn't just work. It's a constant, visceral negotiation with primal forces, a test of will and nerve, a profound existential crisis where raw heat and liquid matter are transformed by human breath into something entirely new. The risk of a scorching breath is not merely a physical danger. It's a constant, terrifying reminder of the fine line between creation and destruction, between the fragile triumph of human ingenuity and the unyielding, consuming power of the elements. You gently place the finished goblet on a cool stone shelf, feeling the delicate whisper of its base against the rough surface. It's a masterpiece, impossibly thin, its surface a kaleidoscope of trapped light, each curve a triumph over molten chaos. You run a finger over its smooth rim, feeling its cool, almost ethereal presence. This fragile vessel, born of searing fire and precise breath, seems to hold the very essence of fleeting beauty. But then, you look through it. The intricate patterns of the workshop, the distant glow of the furnace, are warped, distorted, stretched into unsettling shapes by the glass. And beyond that, through the high, grimy window of the workshop, you catch a fleeting, unsettling reflection. Not a clear image, but a shimmering distortion of the world outside, the distant, towering walls of the city, perhaps a blurred glimpse of a banner flapping, or the chaotic movement of distant figures. The very air in this quiet space feels different now. The roar of the furnace has momentarily receded, leaving a ringing silence that seems to amplify the vulnerability of the object before you. This magnificent, hard-won clarity, this triumph of human skill over stubborn matter, feels precariously balanced. One careless bump, one sudden tremor, one misplaced step from a passing apprentice, and this exquisite beauty could shatter into 1,000 useless shards. You hear a faint, almost imperceptible tremor in the floor, perhaps the rumble of a distant cart, or something heavier, more ominous. The vibration resonates through the stone, through the shelf, almost seeming to whisper through the delicate glass itself. The world outside, with its endless wars, its political intrigues, its shifting alliances, feels like a constant, unseen force, perpetually threatening the fragile perfection you have just created. The thought settles deep in your gut. This glass, so clear, so brilliant, so meticulously crafted, is utterly defenseless. It is an emblem of human ambition and artistry, but also of profound vulnerability. This entire age, with its newfound wealth, its dazzling art, its burgeoning knowledge, it all feels as transparent, as brilliantly intricate, and ultimately as terrifyingly brittle as the vase you have just brought into existence. This beautiful, fragile form, born of fire, carries within it the quiet, chilling understanding that the greatest creations often house the seeds of their own destruction. A profound, unsettling crisis of inherent fragility. The coolness of the stone shelf, the delicate curve of the glass, the distant tremor, all conspire to remind you that even the grandest empires are, in essence, just exquisitely shaped vases, waiting for the slightest unexpected fall. You feel the cold, dry air of the studio prickle against your skin. A faint chill that seems to emanate from the very stone walls. The scent of old oil paint, turpentine, and dusty canvases hangs heavy. A familiar, comforting aroma that now feels laced with a subtle melancholy. Your eyes, strained and weary, are fixed on the large canvas before you. an imposing, unfinished masterpiece that dominates the center of the room. The canvas is a paradox of vibrant life and lingering death. One half bursts with the glorious, almost blinding light of a newly realized heaven. Angels with faces of serene beauty, robes flowing in ethereal grace, clouds rendered with a breathtaking luminescence. Your fingers, gnarled and stiff with age, instinctively reach out, wanting to touch the vivid pigment, to feel the texture of those heavenly forms. But the other half of the canvas remains a desolate landscape of bare, rough linen, streaked with preliminary charcoal sketches. Raw and desolate. It's an empty space, a gaping void where the figures of earth, of sin, of despair were meant to be. A single, weak shaft of afternoon sun, filtering through the high, grimy window, falls directly onto the painted half, making the celestial figures glow with an almost transcendent light. But as the sun dips lower, the light begins to fade, receding slowly, inexorably, from the canvas, gradually swallowing the vibrant hues, dimming the celestial radiance, pulling the unfinished work deeper into shadow. You watch it, helpless, a profound sense of urgency, of time slipping away, gnawing at your gut. The only sound in the vast studio is the quiet, rhythmic wheeze of your own breathing, a constant reminder of your aging body. The studio, usually bustling with apprentices and the sounds of creation, is eerily quiet now, the brushes lying scattered and unused, their bristles stiff with dried paint. You pick one up, a thin, delicate sable, its handle smooth and familiar in your hand. But your hand trembles, and the strength, the precision, the unwavering vision that once guided it are no longer there. You look towards the small wooden palette, its surface a dried, hardened landscape of once vibrant colors. The oil paints, once so fluid and responsive, are now stiff, almost immovable, reflecting your own failing vitality. Your young apprentice, a boy whose face is etched with a mixture of devotion and quiet despair, sits in the corner, meticulously cleaning brushes, his movements slow, almost ritualistic. He doesn't look up, but you feel his silent understanding, his shared grief for the work left undone. The unfinished canvas, a monumental project, feels like a mirror, reflecting not just the unfulfilled vision of a painting, but the grand, unfinished ambitions of an entire age. The vibrant half speaks of boundless human potential, of a glorious renewal, of the soaring heights of creativity, but the stark, empty half, shrouded in the fading light, whispers of mortality, of limitations, of the fragile, temporary nature of even the most profound human endeavors. This isn't just a painting left undone, it's an existential crisis rendered in oil and linen, a poignant testament to the ultimate humbling truth that even the brightest flame of human genius must, eventually, fade into the encroaching shadows. And you, the old master, can only watch as the light slowly, mercilessly retreats from your unfinished masterpiece. You feel the rough, cool stone of the wall against your back, a faint tremor running through it, a distant echo of the bustling city outside. The air in the quiet study is thick, with the familiar scent of old parchment, dry ink, and the subtle metallic tang of iron from the ancient sundial on the windowsill. Your eyes, strained and heavy-lidded, are fixed not on a text, but on the vast, inky blackness beyond the window pane, where the stars, impossibly bright and numerous, glitter with cold, indifferent fire. You press a hand to your chest, feeling the slow, rhythmic beat of your heart, a fragile drum in the face of such immensity. The silence of the night is profound, broken only by the faint, almost imperceptible rustle of the leaves in the courtyard below, and the low, constant hum of the universe itself, a sound only you seem to hear. You taste the dry, almost papery residue of sleepless nights and unanswered questions on your tongue. Your gaze travels from one constellation to another, charting their familiar paths, their ancient stories. But the knowledge that now fills your mind, painstakingly gathered over a lifetime of observation and calculation, renders those stories as quaint fictions. The stars are not fixed jewels in a crystal sphere. They are distant suns floating in an unfathomable void. The earth is not the unmoving center of creation. It is a tiny, spinning orb, adrift in an incomprehensible expanse. You think of the grand theories of the ancients, the elegant geometry of Ptolemy, the comforting certainties of divine order. They held sway for 1,000 years, providing a reassuring framework for human existence. But your own meticulous observations, your relentless pursuit of truth, have systematically dismantled them, one careful calculation at a time. The world, once a clear, divinely ordained tapestry, now feels like a vast, terrifyingly boundless enigma. You pick up a heavy, leather-bound notebook, its pages filled with your own intricate diagrams, your dense equations, your endless observations of planetary motion. Your fingers, calloused and ink-stained, trace a complex curve, a mathematical proof that contradicts everything you were taught, everything the church still insists is true. This isn't just about charting the heavens. It's about redrawing the very map of human understanding, challenging the authority of dogma with the cold, undeniable logic of observation. A profound, almost agonizing solitude washes over you. There's no one left to share this terrifying, exhilarating burden of truth. The brilliant minds of your age, the scholars, the artists, the philosophers, they grapple with human potential, with earthly beauty. But you, standing at the precipice of an infinite, silent universe, confront something far more daunting. The overwhelming, almost unbearable realization of humanity's utter insignificance, its precarious perch in an endless, indifferent cosmos. The stars continue to glitter, cold and beautiful, revealing a universe of questions for which your lifetime has provided no comforting answers, only more profound, unsettling mysteries. This isn't renewal. It's a profound, chilling existential crisis, a stark confrontation with a universe too vast, too complex, too utterly indifferent to human desire, leaving you alone, awestruck, and profoundly insignificant, your mind reeling from the sheer, terrifying scale of it all. And in that moment, in the quiet, overwhelming darkness, you realize that the most profound discoveries often bring not comfort, but an even deeper, more terrifying sense of being utterly lost.